I'm Caroline Malone with The Week in Review. Police in Haiti have killed at least 4 gunmen and arrested a number of others suspected of murdering President Jovenel Moïse. They say they're still looking for other people who planned the assassination. FSN's Rachel Silverman has more.
At least 4 gunmen have been killed and 6 more detained in the assassination of the Haitian president. Haitian officials say 1, perhaps 2 of the suspects are Americans. The president was shot dead at his home early on Wednesday. His wife was seriously injured and she's been flown to Florida for treatment in a hospital. Angry civilians have joined in the hunt for the assassins, capturing some suspects themselves and setting fire to vehicles thought to have been used in the attack. The interim Haitian Prime Minister has appealed for calm and has declared a state of siege. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
The White House says US President Joe Biden urged his Russian counterpart to take action on ransomware groups. That's after another cyber attack took up to 1,500 businesses offline last weekend. FSN's Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
When the two leaders met in Geneva last month, Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin about cyber attacks from Russia-based hackers on US infrastructure and companies. Just over 3 weeks later, he once again urged Putin to, quote, take action to disrupt ransomware groups operating in Russia, according to a summary of the call released by the White House on Friday. Cybersecurity researchers have blamed an affiliate of the REvil group for the latest global ransomware attack, which infected thousands of computers all over the world. Russian officials have repeatedly denied any links between hacking groups and the Kremlin. Giles Gibson, Washington.
Biden also confirmed the US withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan will be complete by the end of August. However, on Friday, the Pentagon said the Taliban is making gains in the country. FSN's US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
President Joe Biden had already set September the 11th as the date by which all US troops would be out of the country. Now he says it'll be done by August the 31st. When asked by reporters, though, he rejected the idea that the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was now inevitable.
The Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
But with the militant group continuing to make advances and with more than 1,000 Afghan troops recently fleeing the country, there are concerns for the future of Afghanistan once the US troops leave. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant are spreading throughout the world, including in Australia, where in the state of New South Wales, numbers jumped again this week. A stay-at-home order covering more than 5 million residents in the Greater Sydney, Wollongong and Central Coast has been extended to July 16th. FSN's Sean Bindley reports.
With the message seemingly not getting through to people about being tested and isolating when they have symptoms, the state's lockdown is on the verge of being extended beyond next week. New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard has pleaded with residents to stay at home unless it's absolutely necessary.
I can't tell you how concerned I am now as Health Minister the way this Delta virus is moving through our community. We were told some years ago to be alert and not alarmed. Right now, here in Greater Sydney as Health Minister, I am both alert and alarmed.
In Brisbane, I'm Sean Bindley.
The Tokyo Olympics will be held without spectators in stadiums after a state of emergency was declared in Japan's capital. Coronavirus case numbers in the country are climbing once again, with just over 2 weeks to go until the opening ceremony. Our correspondent Phoebe Amoroso is in Tokyo.
We heard from Japan's Olympic minister saying that in the name of safety, they would put this cap on spectators. IOC Thomas Bach as well saying that it's a responsibility to the Japanese people. It's important also to note that many people here have still yet to be vaccinated. Only around 15% of the population have been fully inoculated. Japan's vaccination program was very slow to roll out. It's really picked up speed, so much that demand has outstripped supply and there have been a few cancellations. It's slowed down a bit. Prime Minister Suga is saying that, OK, yes, this is the 4th state of emergency that Tokyo is facing and vaccines are the way out of this loop. He expects that 40% of the population will be vaccinated by August the 22nd when the state of emergency is set to expire. But that is, of course, after the Olympic Games.
I'm Caroline Malone in Washington, and that was The Week in Review.
A Rasmussen poll reveals that nearly all American voters share a deep fear of botching another election, with most voters admitting that selecting candidates for public office is something they're historically just not particularly good at.
I really hope I don't completely fuck things up as usual, but you never know. Things do happen.
According to the poll, 3/4 of voters said Election Day panic would cause them to base their vote entirely on hearsay, while 93% acknowledged that they only recognized names of local candidates from signs along state highways. In Cedar Rapids, Iowa, stunned friends and acquaintances expressed shock and disbelief when a body found in the woods turned out not to be Justin. Local residents found the naked corpse draped over a tree stump Saturday, and as news spread, many found themselves struggling to comprehend how it wasn't Justin lying dead in the forest.
I heard the news, and I still can't come around to it. I just can't imagine that it's not Justin there lying dead in the woods. Are they absolutely sure it's not him?
Friends and family are still urging authorities to double-check the body, or at the very least bring in Justin as a suspect.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live, the live Saturday edition of the program. We have open phones, as we always do. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And, of course, you can bring up anything that happens to be on your mind, something you want to talk about with our national and international radio listening audience, also online.
We're worldwide, bro.
We are. We're on satellite, free-to-air satellite in sub-Saharan Africa. We're on video streaming services on, like, I don't know, 6 to 8 or something, depending on which ones have canceled us this week. But
whatever. That number seems to grow over time. Like, there was a time when there was one video service, right?
It grew a few months ago when we signed on with one of these restreaming services, and I spent an evening going through all of the different things to which we could stream video, and was just like, I'll just sign up for as many as looks like we fit. Like, I didn't put us on the sports streaming sites or stuff where it clearly wasn't really a fit, but any sort of video streaming site generically. So we're on a couple international sites as well. One's called Nemo TV, another one FC2.
Are we still on Vaughn?
Vaughn Live is one of them, yeah. So there's a few new ones that we've never had before.
It's not necessarily popular in the libertarian community at large to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I am still on Facebook. And
hey, reach out every way you can.
Yeah, and whenever we started doing the sort of multi-stream services, we are broadcasting live on Facebook now.
We're back on Facebook because somebody was able to log into an account. I think it was Nobody or our co-host Nobody or Mark Edge or something like that. Because I don't have a Facebook account anymore, but we still have the Free Talk Live Facebook page, which supposedly has, 80,000 followers, but of course almost no one sees the posts that you make because Facebook has crippled their system to where you have to pay in order for people to see. And I'm not going to give Facebook a dime of money. Screw them.
During the events of March 16th and the time after, Mark gave me admin privileges for the Free Talk Live Facebook page. And so I started getting notifications. And of course, I get the notification when we go live. And then I get advertisements for, hey, you could be seen by a lot more people if only you'd pay.
Yeah, pump it up. Right. Imagine pumping up your video feed on Facebook for however much money and then having them pull it out from underneath you later.
Yeah.
Every time I see an advertisement for Facebook, I feel like we're winning.
What do you mean, an advertisement for?
Oh, yeah. Like, so on YouTube, they've been advertising like nonstop.
They're trying to get new users?
Yeah. Which to me means like, like
they're having a hard time?
Oh, yeah, you're not absolutely dominating the market, eh?
That is good news. I'm glad to hear about that.
We, of course, have, what's our website, social.freetalklive.com?
Yeah, that's right. It's like a decentralized, it's still running on a server somewhere, but it's federated, so it's connected with other servers. Elsewhere, it's running the Mastodon software, and it's very, very good, and you get a lot more freedom to express yourself at social.freetalklive.com.
I'm on it, and I see some things. I will, maybe during a break or something, I'll chat with you, Ian, about proper, how do you, I don't think I'm doing it right. I'm doing it wrong.
I saw you post a thing earlier. I
can post just fine. I think that I'm just not following enough for the right people or something. So
I see.
I'm not sure, but we could talk about it off air.
Well, check it out at social.freetalklive.com. Oh, by the way, we haven't even introduced ourselves. It's Ian here.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And I'm a lumberjack, and I'm okay.
So I made... he's
a lumberjack, and he's okay.
I put something in my show prep, I don't know, a couple days ago, And interestingly, the title of this post has changed since, so they've updated it.
But do you know what it was?
Yes, I do, because the URL is still what it was, and it has the original title in it. So the original title was from CNBC.com, "The Upside to Inflation, Rising Wages."
Yeah.
You've seen this?
I've seen this many times on the social medias.
That is so not how it works. That is literally the exact opposite of how it works. So turns out prices real easy to change. Wages hard to negotiate.
Hey, look on the bright side. When they create more money out of thin air, you might be able to get a raise if you change jobs.
Well, and so interestingly, they must have gotten a lot of pushback about this particular article, because now, and apparently it was updated in the afternoon, so like right at 4:50 p.m., same day it came out. It came out at 9:44 in the morning. You can see when they updated it here in the header. Now the title is, "It's not certain rising wages will be enough to outpace inflation."
That explains why whenever
that's
I've
more
seen
accurate.
whenever I've seen this on the social media, it's been a screenshot of the page with the original title, not necessarily a link to the article. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I saw when they when this was originally posted, the comments were just excoriating CNBC for this article, which is good news because it shows that there's some economic intelligence out there, at least on the internet, of the people who came across this story. So let's get into it. This is the pitch from CNBC. As the economy picks up in the wake of the COVID pandemic, concerns about inflation are also gaining steam. Already, prices on some goods like cars are noticeably higher, stoking fears that a sudden uptick in inflation will decrease purchasing power over time. Now, we should stop there already and point out that CNBC appears to be using the incorrect definition of inflation, which is common for,
So it's not necessarily incorrect if you're talking about price inflation.
But that's not what they said.
But monetary inflation is different.
Go ahead, put the word price in front of it if that's what you're talking about, because inflation is generally a increase in the money supply. And we already know that that's happening. So it's not like, boy, is this going to happen? Is the money supply going to increase? No, it already happened.
When's the inflation going to hit? It already did when they printed the money.
It's probably continuing to happen, right? The more
it was
the
trillions
goes,
last year and trillions more so far this year, and the year ain't over yet.
Yep.
Well, and it is a manipulative tactic, because if you just look at the prices, then you're ignoring how prices were going to go down if you didn't inflate the money supply.
What do you mean by that?
So as time goes on, we get a little better at this, a little better at that. This way of transporting this raw material from this place to this place gets a little bit cheaper.
Or the manufacturing of
the manufacturing process gets leaner,
gets better. A new plant gets built, which adds to the supply. All of these things would decrease the price if we actually had a decent money system.
Right. If you look at something relatively unregulated, televisions, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know, when 1080p came out, or even 4K for that matter came out, you know, that was the most expensive TV you could buy. And then now this past Christmas, 4K TVs were like $500 at Walmart.
Wow, it's incredible. Yeah. Is there even content for 4K at this point? Can you even watch a thing?
Yeah, there is.
That's in 4K?
There are. I get laughed at sometimes by some of my peeps because I'm from the old school black and white analog over the air TV.
The dial.
So like to me, something in 720.
Don't touch that dial, and you know what they mean.
Well, and I used to do like the copper wire attached to the rabbit ear antenna, and run it outside the window or chuck it on the roof or something to get better reception.
Back when coax was a step up.
That's right.
Well, and so now, like if I get a file from somebody that's 720p, I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah,
because I remember the horrible, crappy analog quality television and that type of thing. So, for me to get something 4K, I'm just like, wow, it's unbelievable.
Now, we've already talked before about how the government has its official inflation numbers, which, of course, they leave very important things out of, like housing.
It's not like people need a place to live, food to eat, or education under any circumstances.
So, they leave a bunch of stuff out of that, and so it's likely that the inflation is actually at least like probably 3 times what they say that it is.
Yeah.
But as it points out here at CNBC, although consumers pay more or may pay more for everyday items. Companies facing a labor shortage are also paying more to get workers to walk in the door. I've heard there's a McDonald's out there somewhere paying people just to interview. You'll get $50 if you just sit down for an interview at this McDonald's. I don't know where it is, but
which is a trend that I do hope to see increasing in the future as more and more activity gets automated.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I think that with this situation that we have, because of the inflation and also because of the, I'm going to call it UBI, or you call it whatever you want, the stimulus packages, the
UBI stands for what?
Universal Basic Income, which they haven't really said, but we have the situation where the government is still paying people to not work, essentially, as a result of COVID. And so I think as that situation continues, we will see more automation.
We're going to continue here. If you want to weigh in your opinion on the economy. What's it like for you right now, where you live? Are you seeing prices go up? Are you seeing wages trailing, not quite rising fast enough? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering FreePrivateCities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at FreePrivateCities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. FreePrivateCities.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. It's the live Saturday edition of the program. You're invited if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. The CNBC story that has been edited since it was released and given a better headline. I don't know how much they've changed the actual text of the story.
Now, is CNBC the Canadian national business? No? What is
no, you're thinking of the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company or Corporation or whatever.
So what's the difference between NBC and CNBC?
Isn't it commercial NBC or something? I forget what the C stands for.
Yeah,
it's
me too.
Basically their business.
Okay.
It's their business channel. And so Jessica Dickler is reporting here. Unfortunate name. So reporting here, and by the way, I do want to say thank you to Bitcoin.com, longtime great sponsor here at Free Talk Live. If you're looking to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, get on over to Bitcoin.com. They can help you do that. There's a getting started area right there at the top of the page, and you can just click on that, and then there's an easy, like 3-minute long introductory video that you can sit there and watch and learn the basics. Now, if you don't need the basics, you're ready to, take it to the next level, get over to their news website over at news.freetalklive.com. That is where you will get the latest headlines about the world of cryptocurrency every single day, and usually from a pro-freedom perspective. I can't say for sure all of their writers are that way, but I know Jamie Redman is, and Roger Ver, of course, the founder of the site is.
I'd actually like to ask the listeners of this program tonight to go to bitcoin.com and scroll down to contact us, and I think there's an editorial email address. It's like editor@bitcoin.com or something like that. And just send them an email and say, hey, can you guys do a story on the Crypto 6?
They did. March 21st.
They did?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
You were saying that they hadn't done it, and I found it the other night.
How did I miss that?
I don't know.
Well,
it wasn't I wouldn't say it was like an in-depth story or anything like that, but
it wasn't a Jamie Redman production, though. Okay.
No, somebody else.
I follow Jamie Redman because he's awesome.
I think it was mostly sourced from the Justice Department press release or something like that, but that's just the
well, that's good because I had sent them all of that information, right? Okay. I sent them the indictment, a link to find it, and kind of a brief summary of what happened. So I'm glad that they did, and my apologies if they've been offended by me.
No worries.
But at the same time, I think it's important if they want to do something in depth. I know that folks here will make themselves available for interviews and investigation, that type of thing. If they want to do a little more in-depth article on it, we'll be happy to make that happen.
So check them out over at bitcoin.com.
So by the way, CNBC stands for Consumer News and Business Channel.
Oh, wow. So it's not even NBC.
Well, it is NBC. It's just different.
But is it related to NBC, the broadcaster?
It's owned by the same company.
It is. Okay.
It's Peacock?
Yeah,
okay.
It's Peacock.
All right. So back to the story here from CNBC, which they changed. It has now the new title is "It's Not Certain Rising Wages Will Be Enough to Outpace Inflation." Let me just go ahead and go on the record and say I'm pretty certain rising wages will not outpace inflation because I don't think they ever have.
I am 100% certain because the nature of this market is that they can't. I mean, if you have an increase in the money supply, then you will have an increase in prices.
Yes.
And it's just the nature of our culture that you don't walk into work every day and go, hey, I'd like to renegotiate my wage.
Right.
That's
you
just
don't? Really?
You don't it's lunch break time. I'd like you to pay me an extra 10 cents for the rest of the day. That just isn't what happens. Now,
but prices can change all the time.
Prices can change just at a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. And in addition, not only are people not renegotiating their wage very often, but every now and then, like, the government will come along with a quote unquote minimum wage increase. Now, as libertarians, generally we're against the government telling people what they can and can't work for, or who they can hire and at what wage and all that. But regardless, it's probably inevitable that at some point they're going to raise the minimum wage from $7 an hour to, or $7.50 or whatever it is right now, to X. Whether that be 10 or 12 or 13 or 15 or whatever. But one thing you can count on is that by the time they get around to it, first of all, most jobs already pay more than the minimum wage, and certainly now way more than the minimum wage because they have to in order to get workers. But even for whatever few poor bastards are still stuck at the minimum wage, by the time they raise that thing, you guys are still going to be way behind the ball compared to inflation. Your quality of life, your quality of living is going to be way down. The cost of living is going to be way up. And this, of course, affects everybody. It doesn't matter what your wage is, but obviously the people on the lower side are affected disproportionately and worse off because of it.
I don't believe in something called the minimum wage. It's dumb.
It's a price floor for labor.
It is, and it shouldn't exist because somebody should be able to work for whatever they agree to. Right.
That would be freedom.
And right, yeah. And the reason that I disagree with the minimum wage is precisely the exact same reason that I disagree with something called the maximum wage, which nobody ever talks about because it doesn't exist, because everybody agrees that a maximum wage would be dumb.
Oh, I suspect not everyone agrees with that.
Well,
I bet you there's some hardcore leftists out there who would absolutely favor a maximum wage.
If you try that kind of stuff, you get exactly what we got during World War II, and they go, okay, well, if I can't increase your wage, how about I cover your health insurance because you've got to attract talent? And okay, well, what about these benefits, which aren't technically a wage? And it's like, well, I can't increase your wage. Here's a new car. And I'm just going to give you a company car every 7 weeks or whatever.
I remember some of my uncles and, older folks when I was getting into the job market telling me that like health benefits are worth a good $2 to $5 an hour, right? Like if you're calculating that into whatever your salary is. So if your employer offers you, I don't know, $20 an hour, but full healthcare insurance, that's kind of worth like another $5 an hour.
Right. And remember, employers are also paying towards Social Security that otherwise is money that would belong to you because it's something they have to pay in order to employ you. So what is it, like 13% or something like that? Half of it, I think, goes to the employer takes care of.
I think one of the only reasons that minimum wage functions at all in this society is because of the impossibility of child labor. Because, I mean, I think it's perfectly reasonable to okay, I will give you, a few bucks to sweep up.
Yeah, sure.
You're not providing a bunch of value, but I can give you a little bit and, teach you a little bit about, what it's like to be in a working environment. And that,
which is invaluable, by the way. I mean, there's a huge level of, it's hard to really calculate what that's worth to a child. I remember my mom started me working at her thrift store in Florida when I was probably like 7 or 8 or something like that. So, I'm up there ringing up people at the cash register. And by the time I was 16 and I got a real job where I was taxed, I was pretty good with customers by that point.
Like you in that respect, I left home. I dropped out of high school at, freshman year. I was 16 and I left home and I just went out and I got jobs. Multiple jobs. I mean, I kind of traveled and I got under the table jobs and all that kind of stuff. But I came home at, I don't know, 21 or something like that. And a lot of the folks that I went to school with were struggling. And I could get a job no problem because I had
the ethic.
Already had years of experience in the market and references and all that stuff.
Yep, makes a difference. 603-283-6160. If indeed people could choose to work at younger ages, it would be a real boon, especially to helping young people mature sooner rather than being little brats.
Yep, and a lot more useful than public school.
Yep, 603-283-6160. You can join us.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with The Week in Review. Police in Haiti have killed at least 4 gunmen and arrested a number of others suspected of murdering President Jovenel Moïse. They say they're still looking for other people who planned the assassination. FSN's Rachel Silverman has more.
At least 4 gunmen have been killed and 6 more detained in the assassination of the Haitian president. Haitian officials say 1, perhaps 2 of the suspects are Americans. The president was shot dead at his home early on Wednesday. His wife was seriously injured and she's been flown to Florida for treatment in a hospital. Angry civilians have joined in the hunt for the assassins, capturing some suspects themselves and setting fire to vehicles thought to have been used in the attack. The interim Haitian Prime Minister has appealed for calm and has declared a state of siege. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
The White House says U.S. President Joe Biden urged his Russian counterpart to take action on ransomware groups. That's after another cyber attack took up to 1,500 businesses offline last weekend. FSN's Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
When the two leaders met in Geneva last month, Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin about cyber attacks from Russia-based hackers on US infrastructure and companies. Just over 3 weeks later, he once again urged Putin to, quote, take action to disrupt ransomware groups operating in Russia, according to a summary of the call released by the White House on Friday. Cybersecurity researchers have blamed an affiliate of the REvil group for the latest global ransomware attack, which infected thousands of computers all over the world. Russian officials have repeatedly denied any links between hacking groups and the Kremlin. Giles Gibson, Washington.
Biden also confirmed the US withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan will be complete by the end of August. However, on Friday, the Pentagon said the Taliban is making gains in the country. FSN's US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
President Joe Biden had already set September the 11th as the date by which all US troops would be out of the country. Now he says it'll be done by August the 31st. When asked by reporters, though, he rejected the idea that the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was now inevitable.
The Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
But with the militant group continuing to make advances and with more than 1,000 Afghan troops recently fleeing the country, there are concerns for the future of Afghanistan once the US troops leave. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can bring up whatever you want. We're talking about inflation.
During the break in my brain, it stewed upon inflation, and I came up with a new parody song. Oh. Do you remember the Go-Go's song, Vacation? It's like, vacation, all I ever wanted.
Yeah.
Right. Inflation, all I ever wanted. Right, yeah.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
You do that stuff, by the way, over at LordKickass.com.
I do.
I've got full-on song parodies.
I've got some stuff like in the hopper that I've been attempting to work on. Of course, the Crypto 6 events of March 16th and all that kind of thing. I just kind of put all my musical endeavors on a shelf. So I'm now that, things are, I don't want to say normal, but we've got you back at least.
It's a new normal.
It is a new, God, why? Oh man, that's horrible. I mean, I'm about to have some time to hopefully work on some of that, and I've got some things in the hopper, so stay tuned.
Excellent. Also, check out liberty.menu. It's a place that you can go if you're a liberty-minded person, if you're an individual who rejects the initiation of force and agrees to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle, you ought to be at liberty.menu, and you can list the things that you do there. If you got more than one thing, that's totally cool. It's free, in fact, to list what you do. And then you might get, a new client or a new, fan or whatever, because you can put on your business, you can put on your digital content that you're the creator of, maybe an event that you are helping organize, which, by the way, are blowing up. Liberty events this year are very well attended. So if you were waiting for a good year to start a Liberty event, this might be a good one. Check out liberty.menu, and you can interact there with other people in the Freedom community and find out what useful products and services there are out there. Liberty.menu. You can use code FTL, get a cool Free Talk Live listener badge on your profile. We've been talking about the economy and inflation, wages, etc. We can continue with that, but you can bring up anything. And we have Dave in New York. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Dave.
Hi there. How you doing?
Dave, what's on your mind?
All right. There is a guy I know. He goes by the name of Mook H, Mike H. This guy is the most creepiest whistleblower ever.
Okay, what do you mean when you say he's a whistleblower?
AKA a tattletale.
Okay, in what way did he tell?
He knows stuff about me or whatever, and he's just basically a whistleblower. Everybody, nobody knows where this guy lives. Nobody knows what he looks like. Nobody knows what he does for work or anything like that. He's so secretive. This guy, Mike H, Luke H, whatever his real name is, we all speak with him on Zello. Zello's a walkie-talkie app, but this guy, he is a whistleblower, a tattletale.
I don't think you know what that word means.
Yeah, whistleblower generally means revealing something to the public about some sort of nefarious activity of some organization.
Yeah, like there's a pattern of behavior and you blow the whistle, so to speak, to stop it.
He said that this guy knows things about him, though, Dave. So, Dave, what is it that this guy has revealed about you that you're so upset about?
He knows a whole bunch of stuff, like what happened in my past and blah, blah, blah.
Give us an example. What's one of the things that he's revealed? I mean, since he's revealed it, I mean, we could just look the guy up and find out what it is. So you might as well just tell us.
Nobody knows what this guy looks like or where he lives or anything.
He's dodging the question.
Nobody knows what he looks like?
No, nobody knows, because we all speak with him on Zello.
How do you think he knows so much about you?
Because he does. He's a creep, a bona fide creep. Well, I love to swear, but
so
I can't.
Thank you for not doing that. So this guy, is it safe to say that he's been creeping on you for some number of years, for maybe a very long time?
Oh, yeah. Since I've been living over at the BWS.
How long is that?
Hold on. The what?
The BWS, and even before that.
And what does that stand for?
What's the BWS?
is Battered Women's Shelter, but this guy was also on the.
So since you've been living at the Battered Women's Shelter,
and how long ago did you start living at the Battered Women's Shelter?
I don't want to get into that, but this guy Mook H.
Hold on, before whoa, Dave, you gotta hold on there, because we gotta let our listeners know you're not this isn't your first time calling the show. You've been calling the show for a decade, basically, at least, yeah. And I believe you were living at the Battered Women's Shelter when you first started calling the show. At least that's that's what the people who follow you were saying. So, for listeners that aren't familiar, Dave, his first time calling this program, just to go take you way back
in time.
Yeah, he was very upset because he was going on this thing that he mentioned tonight, Zello, he said, is this sort of online chat voice app. Before they have these new chat platforms that have come out recently, like Discord or what are the newest ones? There's one that Facebook's doing now.
You guys don't even use Discord anymore.
So there's one that's Facebook's doing now. I think Twitter's got one too, where they're doing these online audio rooms where people can go in and have chats.
It's a giant conference call.
Yeah, and so people have been doing this for years on the internet, but now it's getting big because everybody's been locked down, and so it gave them something to do. Anyway, Dave, you went on these chats. You also went on Craigslist, where they apparently not only let you sell things, but have forums. Who knew? And he would go in these local area for the Hudson Valley, Poughkeepsie, New York area where he lives and get into online fights with people because Dave doesn't know how, apparently, to interact with other humans. And so he...
yeah, I do.
Well, you seem to get into fights wherever it is that you go, and in a lot of cases you started. And I only know this because years ago we used to run a forum called the Free Talk Live BBS, and Dave was on our forum and immediately started getting into fights with people on the forum. Again, online, spats. And so that was what he'd called about the first time he called. He was so upset at how people were treating him online. And here we are a decade plus later, and Dave's still mad because somebody that has been following him for probably a decade because they're...
This guy was also on the HowardShrine.net message board.
I just have... Call me Captain Obvious, but I have a question that I'm guessing anybody who's not familiar with Dave or his saga may not know the answer to, and that is, how does a dude end up living at the battered women's shelter?
I think we'd all like to know that.
It's a long story.
We got time.
Yeah, why not? It's been 10 years and you've never told us.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, God. I used to live with an SQHF. I'm not going to mention what that means, but I used to live with an SQHF, and I didn't really like living with him. And so I ended up at the BWS because I couldn't stand living with this guy, whatever. He was always, he was just arrogant and just, he was just being a jerk.
Was he battering you?
He was just being because I used to live over at the Swampo House, right? The Swampo House was...
What's that?
It was where my mom used to have a house. It was like he lived downstairs and I lived upstairs. Where my bedroom was like upstairs and a bunch of other things were upstairs. And he was like basically downstairs. There was a TV downstairs, a TV upstairs, and all that kind of stuff. But like when she sold the house, I had I didn't have any place to go, so I had to go and stay with the SQHF. So fast forward, I'm now in my own apartment. I no longer have to live with the SQHF. But
how did you end up in the battered women's shelter?
Because I don't want to live with the SQHF anymore.
But how did you end up in the
How did you get them to accept you
right.
as a battered women's shelter?
Did you put a wig on? Identify as a female? Like, what did you do?
I called it the BWS because there was guys were also living there too. But I called it that. There was a bunch of guys who were also living there, and also I didn't have anywhere to go. So my case manager at the time, he put me there.
Okay, I have one other question, Dave. Did they dip you in some sort of an egg wash and then roll you in like spiced flour?
No, Captain Obvious.
There was no battering going on.
No.
Okay.
Dave, thanks for the call tonight. As far as the guy that's creeping on you online, I would suggest that you leave the platforms where people are bothering you. Try joining a new platform and don't get into fights with people. And then maybe you will not create enemies. Because what's basically happened to Dave is that over the years, these people that he's gone on these different platforms, they become obsessed with Dave. And they've followed him from platform to platform.
Oh, boy.
And give him a real hard time and tell everybody what the deal is with Dave. And, and Dave's upset about it. But Dave created all of this. It's all Dave's fault. Thanks for the call tonight, Dave. Appreciate it. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can take control of the airwaves. You can bring up whatever you want. And we got more on the economy, inflation, and other things. Whatever's on your mind. Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live. Phones are open if you want to join us, as evidenced by that last call. You really can just call in about anything you want.
Anybody can just call in.
And you don't even have to make sense.
Even if you're a man living in the battered women's shelter.
Battered women, and all this time I've been eating them plain.
603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. That allows you to call in, take control of the airwaves. Here with you tonight, it's Ian.
Bigless Mountaineer.
I sleep all night and I work all day.
Good to know. So back to CNBC.com, we are getting into their story about inflation, where they sort of admit that inflation appears to be happening. They point out that some people have noticed the uptick in prices on some goods.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the only actual content changes that they made besides the title shift.
The title.
Okay, let's throw a few mays and a couple of maybes in there that we didn't have before.
Or an allegedly or something. Yeah, I see.
Because the old title of this used to be The Upside to Inflation, Rising Wages. It was a total pitch piece on how inflation's actually good for you. And it's not.
The exact opposite of how it works.
How does anybody even arrive at the conclusion that conclusion, much less go, hey, this would be a great title for this article.
Well, how would anybody...
Well, you see, Captain, the average wage is significantly higher today than it was 100 years ago, and we do have inflation to thank for that.
But it doesn't buy as much, unfortunately.
Well,
and how?
Well, no, but the wages are higher. They're higher. The number's bigger.
The really sad part is I could see how the average person who went to a government school could, screw this up. I mean, you go to a government school, they don't teach you the truth about economics. So, but you expect a little bit more from a business website that maybe, just maybe, they would have some level of economic understanding about basic stuff like this.
But they don't expect the consumer to. This is consumer news and business.
Right, good point.
But was this author, when, coming up with this title, you would think that authors would do smart things like, put their title into a search engine and see if anybody else has used it or something close to it or something like that. Did they not do that? Were they just like, nobody else has ever come up with such a brilliant title for an article?
Well, I mean, this might be a little bit tinfoil hatty, but maybe, just maybe, they're trying to manipulate the population and had some pushback in this particular case when they were completely BS crazy.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely what's going on here. I mean, this is total propaganda, but let's go on. So, quote, one of the major challenges for employers, along with finding workers, is to retain their current employees, and one way to do that is to offer current employees a new opportunity and increase pay, said Mark Hamrick, senior economic analyst at Bankrate.com. Hamrick said further, quote, in the power struggle between workers and employers, the balance has shifted in workers' favor, he said. We haven't always seen that in the past.
I mean, to some extent, it is an employee's market right now.
It is. That's true.
So, if you look at that in a slightly different context.
And it's different than what it was several years ago where,
if you have
hard to get a job.
Niche market skills or trade skills and you are unemployed right now, I mean, the market you're not looking. The market has never been better for you as a skilled worker. Yeah. If you're an unskilled worker, give or take.
There's a ton of those jobs too.
Yeah, but I'm talking about with regards to wages. If you want, if you're at a job and you want a raise, there's no hotter market than those who are already employed.
Yep.
Right. You are in demand. So if you want a raise and your employer won't give you one, ask for it. And if they say no, start looking for another job and go, hey, look, these other guys are offering me, $20,000 a year more for the same job.
Do you guys sure you want to say no?
Do you guys want to match it, or what do you want to do here?
Exactly. Workers already saw a bump in their paychecks for June, according to the story here. As of the latest tally, average hourly earnings rose 0.3% month over month and 3.6% year over year, according to the Labor Department. However, incremental wage increases are unlikely to keep pace as the cost of living rises, according to David Williver, founder of personal finance site Money Under 30. And he's absolutely right about that. That's the way it's always been.
And that's always something to keep in mind when you're talking about increasing minimum wages, is that you will see an immense rise in the cost of living if you increase the minimum wage.
Yeah, it's so weird to me that people don't get that. Every time the minimum wage goes up, the cost of living goes up. Every time. Yeah. Every time. It's like clockwork. You can go look at it. It's historical fact.
In
There's
a lot of
no
cases,
question.
It goes up way later, though, right? Because it relies on politicians who don't exactly get things done quickly.
But it's not, correlation. It is a fact that it happens.
And I will admit, I don't feel as strongly as a lot of people do about minimum wage laws because, I mean, you're kind of partially correcting for something that the government screwed up in the first place. Yeah. Like, if we had sound money, then the fact that wages don't get renegotiated very often would not only be not a problem, but actually helpful.
If those people were being paid in said money.
Right, right. But this is kind of a halfway measure to try and fix some of that problem.
It's always too little too late, though. That's the thing. Yep. It's like the cost of living. You're not wrong, Captain, in that every time wages go up by force or whatever.
Minimum wage specifically.
Yeah, the minimum wage goes up, the cost of things go up. But that presumes that there's a ton of workers at the minimum wage. Generally, there isn't. Right? So really, ultimately, it doesn't make, I don't think, that big of a difference because you've got a ton of people that are getting more than the minimum wage because that's what the market has to pay them. And so it's like later on, years later, the politicians finally come around and like, okay, well, we'll raise the minimum wage. And then they pat themselves on the backs like they've actually done something for somebody when in point of fact, the supermajority, I believe it's 90+% or 95+% of the heads of household are not making minimum wage.
You know who should get the minimum wage?
Politicians.
All government workers, including politicians and the president.
There's going to be a lag, said their expert here. He says further, the prices at the gas pump or grocery store may change very quickly, but you might not get that raise for a year. And that's what Peakless was saying earlier. Corporations are often slow to raise wages, especially if it's costing them more to buy raw materials, said the guy, Williver. They'll be feeling a profit squeeze, and the last thing they want to do is pay their workers more, he said. And that's the sticky situation that we get into. And yet, according to CNBC, an acute labor shortage in certain industries, such as leisure and hospitality, adds an unprecedented twist. On a job search site, Indeed.com, 4.1% of companies were offering cash bonuses or other hiring incentives in June, which was more than double the rate of companies that were offering that a year ago. Some food prep jobs even advertised bonuses of $100 to $2,500. I remember hearing an interview on just normal radio when I was in jail. I was listening to the morning show on our affiliates, The Pulse, and he had a guy on from California who sounded pretty libertarian. Sadly, he's still in California running like food truck businesses. He said he's hiring dishwashers as of this year at $25 an hour.
Wow.
To start.
Wow. Well,
that's what he has to do.
Right. But, $50,000 a year as a salary in California, you might as well be making minimum wage anywhere else.
Still, though, I mean, he'd never had to do that before either, right? Like, this is unusual for him.
Yeah.
According to the story here, still, some economists fear a too rapid increase in wages could prompt companies to raise prices. Well, gee, you think?
It may prompt,
and create the very phenomenon of inflation causing more harm than good. Again, that's not how inflation is created. Yeah, that's prices going up is a symptom of inflation, which is an increase in the money supply, which they've been doing. And it wasn't just something they started doing last year. They've always done this. It's just that with COVID, they had this excuse to crank out trillions more in dollars in 1 year's time frame, and then trillions more this year, record budgets, record numbers, record inflation, and these people in the media keep covering for the government.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why this is nowhere near any kind of a solution. Is okay. So if your target audience if your target consumer is minimum wage people, and suddenly the minimum wage increases, then you bet your bottom dollar they're going to increase the price of that product or service. So yeah, and like I said earlier, you can change the price in the middle of the day for no reason. You can change the price of something anytime you want to. So as soon as that goes into effect, every good and service that is aimed at minimum wage workers will immediately increase in price.
If you want to join us here, the number for you, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I heard recently that New Hampshire's unemployment numbers, we happen to live in New Hampshire, we're doing the show from here, was now below 2%. As of like the last week or so.
And yet there's now hiring signs everywhere.
Which is something that's like, I just don't understand that.
Like if you're considering moving to New Hampshire, the last thing you need to worry about is being able to find a job.
Plenty of people still sitting on the couch, plenty of people still getting that government dole, and plenty of people still scared of the virus.
And I forget who it was. I think it was somebody on the show last night said that it was that like the government unemployment numbers don't count a certain factor, which is like people who quit looking for a job.
Yeah, people who stopped looking. So the number's much higher.
So what's the real number? 603-283-6160. You can join us. This is Free Talk Live. Hour 2's coming up, live Saturday show.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with The Week in Review. Police in Haiti have killed at least 4 gunmen and arrested a number of others suspected of murdering President Jovenel Moïse. They say they're still looking for other people who planned the assassination. FSN's Rachel Silverman has more.
At least 4 gunmen have been killed and 6 more detained in the assassination of the Haitian president. Haitian officials say 1, perhaps 2 of the suspects are Americans. The president was shot dead at his home early on Wednesday. His wife was seriously injured and she's been flown to Florida for treatment in a hospital. Angry civilians have joined in the hunt for the assassins, capturing some suspects themselves and setting fire to vehicles thought to have been used in the attack. The interim Haitian Prime Minister has appealed for calm and has declared a state of siege. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
The White House says U.S. President Joe Biden urged his Russian counterpart to take action on ransomware groups. That's after another cyber attack took up to 1,500 businesses offline last weekend. FSN's Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
When the two leaders met in Geneva last month, Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin about cyber attacks from Russia-based hackers on US infrastructure and companies. Just over 3 weeks later, he once again urged Putin to, quote, take action to disrupt ransomware groups operating in Russia, according to a summary of the call released by the White House on Friday. Cybersecurity researchers have blamed an affiliate of the REvil group for the latest global ransomware attack, which infected thousands of computers all over the world. Russian officials have repeatedly denied any links between hacking groups and the Kremlin. Giles Gibson, Washington.
Biden also confirmed the US withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan will be complete by the end of August. However, on Friday, the Pentagon said the Taliban is making gains in the country. FSN's US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
President Joe Biden had already set September the 11th as the date by which all US troops would be out of the country. Now he says it'll be done by August the 31st. When asked by reporters, though, he rejected the idea that the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was now inevitable.
The Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
But with the militant group continuing to make advances and with more than 1,000 Afghan troops recently fleeing the country, there are concerns for the future of Afghanistan once the US troops leave. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant are spreading throughout the world, including in Australia, where in the state of New South Wales, numbers jumped again this week. A stay-at-home order covering more than 5 million residents in the Greater Sydney, Wollongong and Central Coast has been extended to July 16th. FSN's Sean Bindley reports.
With the message seemingly not getting through to people about being tested and isolating when they have symptoms, the state's lockdown is on the verge of being extended beyond next week. New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard has pleaded with residents to stay at home unless it's absolutely necessary.
I can't tell you how concerned I am now as Health Minister the way this Delta virus is moving through our community. We were told some years ago to be alert and not alarmed. Right now, here in Greater Sydney as Health Minister, I am both alert and alarmed.
In Brisbane, I'm Sean Bindley.
The Tokyo Olympics will be held without spectators in stadiums after a state of emergency was declared in Japan's capital. Coronavirus case numbers in the country are climbing once again, with just over 2 weeks to go until the opening ceremony. Our correspondent Phoebe Amoroso is in Tokyo.
We heard from Japan's Olympic minister saying that in the name of safety, they would put this cap on spectators. IOC Thomas Bach as well saying that it's a responsibility to the Japanese people. It's important also to note that many people here have still yet to be vaccinated. Only around 15% of the population have been fully inoculated. Japan's vaccination program was very slow to roll out. It's really picked up speed, so much that demand has outstripped supply, and there have been a few cancellations. It's slowed down a bit. Prime Minister Suga is saying that, okay, yes, this is the fourth state of emergency that Tokyo is facing, and vaccines are the way out of this loop. He expects that 40% of the population will be vaccinated by August the 22nd, when the state of emergency is set to expire. But that is, of course, after the Olympic Games.
I'm Caroline Malone in Washington, and that was the Week in Review.
Pennington is reeling this hour from one of the biggest stories we've seen in decades.
That's right, Kathy. Mayor Sue Hallinan has stepped down following revelations of her involvement in a coupon forging scandal. After a week of fervent denials, Mayor Hallinan admitted that last Thursday she used 5 counterfeit coupons on a weekly shopping trip to the Kroger for a savings totaling $14.81.
Once you've made a fake coupon and you've had a taste of that power, it's hard to stop.
How much time does one woman need? Mayor Hallinan also apologized for her first response to the controversy when she blamed Jared the paperboy for stealing her coupons and replacing them with the fakes.
I don't know what to say. She could have ruined my career. I hope she goes to jail forever.
And in what many are saying is the ultimate indignity, Mayor Hallinan's photo has been put up on the Kroger's so-called banishment wall, in between such undesirables as the Fredericks boy and infamous gum thief, Mr. Ivins.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour of this live Saturday show. The number, if you want to join in, 603-283-6160. What are you seeing locally as far as job availability, wages? Definitely around here, wages are shooting up. Everybody's hiring. If you want a job, like you were saying earlier, Captain, if you're skilled, you're going to get paid very well in whatever area you're skilled. If you're unskilled, you're looking at just retail or, servers or whatever restaurant jobs. I'm not saying that you can't have skills and work at those jobs. Obviously, there's some really great waiters and that sort of thing out there, but
I think one of the big things here is that a lot of people suddenly got onto unemployment. And for the most part, once you're on unemployment, it is a lot easier to stay on unemployment than it was to get on unemployment. And there's a lot of people who didn't realize that this was an option available to them that had it very suddenly put in their awareness.
Right, and whatever this payment thing is, this post-COVID
there's bonuses
thing, it's not just unemployment, I'll call it enhanced unemployment. I don't have a better term for it, but because, as they say, they're blaming this on COVID, and so now they've given extended benefits.
Yep.
There's something like, if you have children, you get something like, I don't know, $300 a month.
That's new, isn't it? Didn't that just start?
That's what I mean. Like, they're saying that, well, because of COVID, we're going to institute this new program.
Now, hold on. Is that only for people unemployed, or is it for everyone who has children?
That is a good question. That is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I think it might be for everyone.
I would have to do some research, but I believe it may apply to anybody with children. Because I was one of our co-hosts here who has children was saying that she would even qualify for that kind of a thing if she wanted to file for it.
Yeah, and just to let the listeners know exactly what kind of numbers we're talking about. So the number of people on the federal minimum wage is about 1.5% of hourly workers. are at or below the federal
1.5%.
1.5% of hourly workers are at or below the federal minimum wage.
Can you imagine being on salary at minimum wage?
And weirdly enough, like 3 times as many of them are below federal minimum wage than at federal minimum wage.
How?
I imagine it's under the table. Maybe you don't have citizenship, things like that.
Well, and that may be counting things like wait
or you're
people
cheating on
and
taxes. I don't know.
No, like wait people and bus people who make like I don't know what it is now.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You know, when I was doing that type of work as a bus boy, I was making like I don't know, man, $1.75 or $2.15 an hour. But then I'd get tips every night as part of the pool, right? Everybody who served or bussed would, you know, be part of this tipping pool, and you get a percentage of the bar tips and a percentage of the, you know, the tips from the dining and that kind of a thing. And so that's where you really made your money. But as far as taxes were concerned, yeah, you made way less than minimum wage. So I wonder if that's part of the calculation.
I have the answer for you, Captain, about this child tax credit, as it is called. This is from the actual treasury.gov press release website. I think I typed in children bonus federal government.
Your Google flew very strong.
It came right up. So treasury.gov, this is our actual press release about this. Came out May 17th of this year. The U.S. Department of the Treasury and the Internal Revenue Service announced today that the first monthly payment of the expanded and newly advanceable Child Tax Credit, or CTC, from the American Rescue Plan. That's the most recent multi-trillion-dollar package, 1.9. Package that came out in, a couple months ago. It will be made on the 15th of each month. It'll begin being made on July 15th, so starting next week. Roughly 39 million households, covering 88% of children in the United States, are slated to begin receiving monthly payments without any further action required. So, no, this is not just for people on unemployment. This is for almost every single parent who pays taxes, basically.
It says no further action required. So, like, are some people going to automatically start getting money?
That's what they're saying.
Wow. And I suggest that you use that money to take them out of public school.
That's a good suggestion.
Or put that money into something tangible, gold,
like
gold backs, cryptocurrency, all that kind of stuff, or at least part of it.
Better yet, give some to your kids, right? Like give them a little holdings of some crypto.
And anything tangible, ammunition, real estate, you know, if you could put that money into something that's not the United States dollar, I believe, and I'm no economist, but I believe you'll be better off in the long run.
The government bureaucracies also announced the increased CTC payments will be made every 15th, unless the 15th falls on a weekend or holiday, allowing families who receive the credit by direct deposit to plan their budgets around the receipt of the benefit. Eligible families will receive a payment of up to $300 per month for each child under age 6 and up to $250 per month for each child age 6 and above. So the more children you got, the more money.
Yeah, this sounds like an incentive for the folks who aren't the brightest in the world to reproduce and for them to build more of a slave base for their taxation schemes.
The American Rescue Plan increased the maximum child tax credit in 2021 to $3,600 for children under the age of 6 and $3,000 per child for those up to 17 or through 17. The American Rescue Plan is projected to lift more than 5 million children out of poverty this year. Well, hey, that's all it takes to get lifted out of poverty. It's a government handout, right?
Just another step toward the universal basic income.
It is.
Well, this is very much universal basic income.
It's just not quite universal.
They just have
almost.
They just came up with a new name for it.
Child tax credit.
Yeah. What was the other one? The
CTC?
CTC. Yeah,
that's what this is.
Okay.
Well, and I'm sure a few years from now they'll be like, hey, I qualified for this when I was a kid. You should give it to me now. And they'll be like, yes, we totally should.
ARP was the other one, right?
What was that one?
ARP. It's in your article.
I don't remember.
Something.
Oh, American Rescue Plan?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Instead of UBI, it's ARP.
Well, the American Rescue Plan was the big mega package that, has trillions of buku bucks for all kinds of different, various different corporations.
The words these a-holes choose just defy me all of the time. The American Rescue Plan.
Right.
Okay. Well, first of all, that, we kind of understand what they might mean by an American. It implies that some sort of rescue is needed, that America needs rescuing. From what? The only thing I can see that they need rescuing from is the bureaucrats.
Yeah, the government itself.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's been government handouts to people with children for decades, and it hasn't done anything to lift anyone out of poverty. Why is that?
Yeah, one of my parental units was a single mother for some time, and she was on food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back in the day when they actually produced this. I mean, it looked like Fisher-Price currency. There were little coins for, the dime and the quarter. They were just plastic pieces with like a black printed stamp on 25 cents, 10 cents. And then they had these certificates, if you will, that were the same size as dollar bills. But they were like different color. They were like pink and green and blue, kind of Monopoly money style, that were the food stamps. So like you could only use them for like food stuffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today they have that. They just give you a debit card instead of actually producing the physical currency.
And I'd like to point out when we're talking about like $1 trillion, because that's not an easy thing for someone to wrap their mind around. So 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. 1 trillion seconds is 3 times longer than civilization has existed. Yeah.
And they just pull the lever and printer go brrrr, and it prints out. I mean, it doesn't print out $1 trillion, but they have zeros that they're incrementing in computer systems. And effectively, it does what we were talking about earlier. When the money supply inflates, it chases around the same amount of goods. And so the price of those goods goes up.
Yeah. Well, and the best thing for them is that whoever gets it first, they get to buy it at the price as it is.
That's true.
But as that money gets around, as it gets further and further from the levers of power, then we have to start rising the prices and rising the prices.
Which is why no matter how much you hand out, in this case to people with children, they're never going to get risen out of poverty. This didn't work in the 70s. It didn't work in the 60s. It didn't work in the 80s. And it's not going to work today.
Well, it just needs to be reformed, Ian. The program just needs to be reformed. I know, again and again.
Now they're giving even more money out to even more people.
Well, the problem was that they didn't spend enough money, obviously. We didn't give government enough power. That's always the problem.
Then? If that's the problem, why stop with $300 a month? Why not make it $3,000 a month?
Why not make everybody the money?
$3 billion per child per month.
603-283-6160. Join us on Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And I cut down trees, I skip and jump, and I like to press wildflowers.
Are you a lumberjack?
And I'm okay.
You're okay. Okay, good.
He works all night, and he sleeps all day.
But
Wait, strike that. Reverse it. Let's go on.
At least he's here. LibertyStickers.com is where you can go to reach people with the ideas of liberty, and you can do it from the back of your car. There are thousands of people you could reach with a bumper sticker, and you know people love to read them, so you can check out the vast selection of witty, poignant, pithy, and downright bombastic, liberty-oriented messages at LibertyStickers.com. Let's go to the phones and to your calls and thoughts here. We got Doodlebug is on the line. Hopefully. We've been having some phone issues with her calls over the last 2 days. Go ahead, Doodlebug.
Hi, Ian. Big listen, Captain.
Hey, thank you. What's on your mind tonight?
I have a couple questions about the program. What's going to become of this if yourself, Rich Paul, and Aria end up in prison for a while?
We will continue to run the show. Captain Kickass here is fully capable of hosting Free Talk Live. Of course, Mark Edge also, somewhat fully capable, depending on the day, of hosting the show.
We've put some other people into some training-ish type stuff over the last couple of months as well.
Yeah, of course, she's referring to the Crypto 6, which was a major attack on Free Talk Live and the hosts of the show. 3 of us were arrested back in March, so that's what you're referencing. And her call just dropped off the line. So again, something very strange going on with her particular line. But we're going to go to another call here.
Rest assured, we will still be here.
Yes, the whole point of Free Talk Live was to have the show continue if I were to be hit by a bus. That's why I never named it the Ian and Mark Show.
Right.
Or the Ian Freeman Show or whatever. First of all, I never like having like a all the attention centered on me. Not interested in that.
You mean we shouldn't gather around a charismatic leader?
No,
I mean that really always goes so well.
No, I'm really not interested in being, as much as I am sort of in the front of certain activism, I don't relish it. I just do it out of a feeling of obligation more so than anything else. So I titled the show Free Talk Live for the reason that it's not about one person. It's about an idea of open phones. And that's not an original idea. By no means is Open Phones original in the world of talk radio.
Just a rare one.
But it is somewhat rare, and it's certainly more rare to have actual liberty-minded people that are the people behind the microphone. So that's what makes our show different and special. And over the years, we've had a a large variety of co-hosts that have sort of come and gone, and it's been a bit of a kind of a reality show to some extent. And part of Free Talk Live being a reality show is like we do the things we talk about. So we don't just talk on Free Talk Live, and that can get us in a little hot water.
Well, and one of the things I just want to say, again, I've said it before, but to everybody that offered assistance and then, of course, did actually assist with the show, during the events of March 16th and the Crypto 6 and all that, I want to thank you personally, because that lends some credence to us. If something should happen, heaven forbid or whatever, that like this show will go on regardless, right? We can dip into a pool of, volunteers. We can dip into a pool of previous hosts.
Yeah, people will step up if like right now we're full, right? Like we got another host, Richie Rich, who wants to come back on, and we're having trouble finding a spot for him because
we'll get him worked in.
We got plenty of people who are already on the air with us, and there's others that I'm sure would step up if need be. So we got it covered is the short answer. Let's continue here. Paul is on the line. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Paul.
Hey, guys. Good to talk to you.
Hey, you're calling from Spokane, listening to KXLY. Go ahead.
I am, yeah. And just on this supposedly tax credit for the kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I talked to some tax people, and they said, no, that's going to come out of your taxes at the end of the year. So if you're getting a certain amount of money for your kids, you're going to lose that. So if people think that they're going to be getting $500 a month for their kids, 2 kids, no, you're not going to get that.
This is a tax credit, as I understand it. So from what I understand, and I don't have kids, but from my understanding...
I got 2 on that, and we just got a piece of paper in the mail today saying it is I can't even remember how they worded it. I don't have it in front of me right now. But,
well, doesn't a credit get applied to any amount of taxes due? I'm not an expert on these things, but isn't that normally what happens?
Yeah, I don't know.
So my understanding is, again, without being a tax expert or anything like that if you're somebody who's, let's say that you are a poorer person and you don't generally end up paying quote unquote taxes. You get a refund right at the end of the year. These people will get extra refund, okay? If you are somebody who's wealthier and you are paying taxes at the end of the year because they haven't taken enough out or whatever, then there's a chance that they won't have to pay as much because they'll have this tax credit. But yes, you're right. What they're doing is they're taking what used to be a tax time credit and they're spreading it across a 12-month time frame as checks, basically.
Yeah. I don't know if it's 12 months. It's maxed out at $3,500
per month.
Well, there's also per child, right?
Like in my case, it's going to be $500.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So it'd be $500 per month.
And you have 2 kids.
So got 2 kids.
Over 6.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So one's 15 and one's 16. So 500. That doesn't come up to 3,000.
No, it's 3,000 per child, if I recall the story correctly.
Or 35, I can't remember.
Yeah, so it depends on if your child is under 6 or over 6.
Yeah.
You get a little more if they're younger. You get a little less if they're older. But yeah, so they're basically taking the end of the year tax credit that people were already getting, and they're making it into more of an ongoing welfare payment, essentially.
It's funny money is what it is.
But yeah, it is.
It's
not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the economy. It's all a bunch of...
No, not at all.
It's a scam.
No,
hey, Paul, thanks for the call tonight, man. I appreciate your thoughts.
All right.
The number here is 603-283-6160. If you want to join us, that's 603-283-6160. Story from Bitcoin.com, the news site over at news.bitcoin.com. Ted Cruz appeared on Fox Television recently to talk about Bitcoin. Following negative statements about Bitcoin from Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, the Republican senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, gave his opinion recently. He appeared on Fox News' Hannity, where he had a lot to say about Joe Biden and explained he thinks the Biden administration is undermining the American economy and foreign policy. He says if you look...
He's right. He's just refusing to acknowledge that all of the administrations undermine the American economy.
Yeah. Of course, when the Democrats are in charge, the Republicans always sound a lot better than when they're in charge.
Well, and vice versa, too.
So in addition to discussing foreign policy, the conversation turned to cryptocurrencies. Hannity said, so you've been hearing all about it. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. What is it? Why is it so big? What is Bitcoin? What is blockchain? What is Doggy Coin? He asked.
Woof.
Which is Dogecoin. But he mispronounced it, I guess. The host of the Fox News broadcasts further said he's been studying this and debating this with friends and probably for hundreds of hours in regards to the crypto assets. The political commentator also added that he is not in any way offering financial advice. Now, look, whatever you think about Sean Hannity, put that aside for a moment. He's a relatively popular on-air personality on both television and on radio broadcasts. He's one of the top, I think, 5 talk radio, if not top 3 talk shows. If you look at the Talkers Top 100, on which we are number 25, by the way. Thanks, Talkers. This guy's huge. And for him to start talking about cryptocurrency, to start mentioning Bitcoin, to start asking questions about it, I think it's a good thing. We'll continue. You can share your thoughts. 603-283-6160.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with The Week in Review. Police in Haiti have killed at least 4 gunmen and arrested a number of others suspected of murdering President Jovenel Moïse. They say they're still looking for other people who planned the assassination. FSN's Rachel Silverman has more.
At least 4 gunmen have been killed and 6 more detained in the assassination of the Haitian president. Haitian officials say 1, perhaps 2 of the suspects are Americans. The president was shot dead at his home early on Wednesday. His wife was seriously injured and she's been flown to Florida for treatment in a hospital. Angry civilians have joined in the hunt for the assassins, capturing some suspects themselves and setting fire to vehicles thought to have been used in the attack. The interim Haitian Prime Minister has appealed for calm and has declared a state of siege. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
The White House says U.S. President Joe Biden urged his Russian counterpart to take action on ransomware groups. That's after another cyber attack took up to 1,500 businesses offline last weekend. FSN's Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
When the two leaders met in Geneva last month, Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin about cyber attacks from Russia-based hackers on US infrastructure and companies. Just over 3 weeks later, he once again urged Putin to, quote, take action to disrupt ransomware groups operating in Russia, according to a summary of the call released by the White House on Friday. Cybersecurity researchers have blamed an affiliate of the REvil group for the latest global ransomware attack, which infected thousands of computers all over the world. Russian officials have repeatedly denied any links between hacking groups and the Kremlin. Giles Gibson, Washington.
Biden also confirmed the US withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan will be complete by the end of August. However, on Friday, the Pentagon said the Taliban is making gains in the country. FSN's US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
President Joe Biden had already set September the 11th as the date by which all US troops would be out of the country. Now he says it'll be done by August the 31st. When asked by reporters, though, he rejected the idea that the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was now inevitable.
The Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
But with the militant group continuing to make advances and with more than 1,000 Afghan troops recently fleeing the country, there are concerns for the future of Afghanistan once the US troops leave. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phone is open because there's only one line left at this point. Phones are blowing up right now. People have stuff to say, which I like.
I got something to say.
I like it when that happens. Don't use the next line of that song. It's kind of gross.
That's why I stopped.
Yeah, 603-283-6160. And you can get on the line here with us. Also, we do have SIP. What does that mean? I'm not going to explain it, but basically it's an internet method of making a phone call, and you can do it for free. If you want to learn how to do it, just go and look for the article at freetalklive.com. You have to scroll down a little bit. You know, we need to make it so that people can actually see the phone numbers when the show is live. That's never actually been the case. It's one of the majorly overlooked problems with freetalklive.com. We'll get there at some point, but we actually have no problem getting people on the phones here tonight. The phones are working better. I turned on extra channels behind the scenes, and now it seems like everybody's able to get through, which is what I like. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Beagless Mountaineer.
And I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars.
Do you get paid for it?
No, I'm just a lumberjack.
If you're good at it, you should get paid for it. Let's go to your calls. We've got, first up, he's James in West Virginia, listening to WVTS. They're in Charleston. Go ahead, James.
Hi, guys. I hope I don't offend anybody, but I called last night when you had a different crew on, and their topic was the Boy Scouts being sued for almost $1 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
850 million.
Well, to be clear, they were being sued, but the Boy Scouts have offered a settlement of $850 to the judge.
$850 million.
$850 million, sorry. And so it's up to the judge now to accept that or decline it.
Ah, okay. I didn't know it wasn't a done deal. Go ahead, James. What about it?
Okay. Well, anyway, I was kind of doing a twist on that story when I said that, you know, they throw the term pedophile around much too loosely. And, you know, there's no such thing as a good pedophile. But in my opinion, there are three kinds of pedophiles.
Now, are you about to presume to know the sexuality of pedophiles?
Well, I knew a couple personally.
If I remember correctly, James, there were homosexual pedophiles.
You got the homosexual pedophiles, the lesbian pedophiles, and then the regular pedophiles. The regular pedophiles go after either sex.
Right.
The homosexual goes
Wouldn't
after
that be
the
bisexual pedophiles?
Well, what's the point? I mean, you've identified that people have sexual preferences, and some of them are perversions. What about it?
That's why I called, and I didn't get a chance to finish last night.
Okay.
The reason I called was you must remember that there was a big brouhaha over homosexual scoutmasters joining the Boy Scouts.
Right. That's what this is about.
How long ago was that?
It's been going on for
10
decades.
Years ago, 15 years
decades.
ago?
Well, and it was because of the tendency to associate homosexuality with homosexual pedophilia.
Okay, there you go.
Well, it's also the fact that only
which is
only men
nonsense.
can be scoutmasters, or at least that's the way it used to be until just recently. So, of course, homosexuals are going to be attracted to those positions if they are pedophiles.
That's right, and to the priesthood and places like that where they can get to young boys.
Sure.
And I just thought it was so ironic. You know, a lot of people were against allowing homosexual scoutmasters. And, you know, the whole point of this is you reap what you sow.
Oh, so you're saying hold on. I see what he's saying here. You're saying that because gay men were allowed to be scoutmasters openly, that somehow contributed to the sexual molestation?
Pedophilia?
Absolutely.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of homosexual men who are not pedophiles. Right.
I'm not saying they all did. I'm just saying it was an easy way to get in, just like it's
You know they don't ask that question, right? Generally, like if you're going to become a scoutmaster, they don't ask you, "Are you gay?" I'm pretty sure that's not one of the questions. Okay.
What they should ask you is, "Are you a pedophile?"
Yeah, because that might be an effective screening technique.
Because no one would ever lie about that, right?
That's right.
Okay, thanks, James, for the call tonight. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I don't even know where to start. First
Here's
of all,
where you start. The fact is, these positions, he's right, do attract people who are attracted to children.
Right. Anywhere you get a gathering of children is going to be attractive to a pedophile,
and
regardless of their sexual orientation.
Well, and especially if it puts you in a position of power over them.
Yes, and they are going to lie about whatever they need to lie about, whether it's lying about their sexuality, lying about who they're attracted to, not that they would ever be asked. I mean, maybe they ask these questions now. I don't know, but I suspect back in the day it was like, oh, you like to, build campfires and help boys, tie knots and things like that? Great, you're hired. Oh, you used to be a Boy Scout too? Bonus. I mean, it couldn't have been that difficult to get into these positions. I mean, there probably were background checks instituted at some point, but as long as you don't have a criminal past, all you got to do is lie to these people to get in. So whether they were homosexual or not, I don't think is like completely immaterial to whether or not these rapes and or molestations
placing
happen.
A gender preference in front of the word pedophilia, in my mind, is irrelevant.
Right. I mean,
and who knows? Maybe you're just willing to hop that fence. Like, well, I usually only like little girls, but this time, maybe, since I've got the opportunity. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous.
It is. Let's continue. Otto's on the line in Virginia. You're on Free Talk Live, Otto.
Oh, good evening, gentlemen. Good. Hello to all the people in the United States and Canada.
Hello, Otto. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I'm an economist. I consider about our paper money supply. Back in 1918, the Germans were printing all kinds of paper money, and during the Weimar Republic, of course, it led to the rise of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Party in 1933, and we're trying to reevaluate our currency and back it by gold like they had in 1970 and so forth, and I think people should be aware of what's happening to our country. They have an estimated $28 trillion debt. They borrow money from places like Japan and so forth, but we're trying to encourage our Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to issue new currencies, put the words backed by the wealth of the United States on the paper money and so forth. And a lot of people here in West Virginia and Virginia use what's called bartering and so forth. But people should be aware of what might happen to the United States in the next 5 or 6 years. It's happening in Nazi Germany.
This isn't unprecedented before. I mean, definitely powers fall, and when they fall, they will fall hard. And, of course, the U.S. government has been warring in Afghanistan for 20 years, where plenty of empires have died over the past. And so maybe the U.S. is next. Really, the question is when, perhaps, rather than if.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were not able to trade gold in Germany at the time when they were printing all of this money.
Oh, really?
I mean, I could be wrong there, but
I mean, unless it was,
I would bet dollars to donuts
right,
that you were not allowed to use an alternate currency.
Well, they confiscated gold in the United States back then, so I mean, it's not unbelievable they would have done it in Germany. And weren't they taking gold out of the mouths of like dead, prisoners?
Yeah. So now a difference between what happened in the Weimar Republic and today is we actually have a good currency that is incredibly available. Because you can just use Bitcoin Cash or, your preferred cryptocurrency. I like that one because you can spend it as compared to Bitcoin itself, or Bitcoin Core, as some people call it.
Right.
But we have available currencies to move from the failing currency.
Otto, what do you think about that alternative like cryptocurrency or gold backs?
I think that's a good idea. I don't know if you're aware of what's Pebble Beach, Alaska. They found all kinds of minerals out there a few years ago. It's right borders the Pacific Ocean, but there's hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions, maybe $1 trillion in Alaska. It's worth about $200 trillion, according to people that I know in Alaska. But
what's in Alaska? You got a little muffled there. What was it?
Well, it's a place called Pebble Beach, Alaska. They made a discovery about 3 years ago, gold and silver and all kinds of valuable titanium and so forth. And that's the basis of our paper money backed by those kind of minerals and so forth.
No, it's not. No, sir. It's not. The gold standard was gotten rid of decades ago in the United States. So the United States paper money is a load of garbage, and it is not backed by anything at all.
Yeah, for individuals, it hasn't been backed by gold since like the early 1900s. Even for countries, that stopped in the 70s.
Thank you for the call tonight. There's more on the way. Your calls and thoughts welcome. If you want to join in here, whether it's the economy, freedom, whatever you want to talk about, it goes here on the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. Our number for you, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live. Join us. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can dial in. Take control of the airwaves. 603-283-6160. Bring up whatever you want. In the studio, joining you tonight, it's Ian.
Peebles Mountaineer.
And on Wednesdays, I go shopping and have buttered scones for tea.
You think you get through the whole song by the end of the show?
I think I'm running out of verses that I remember. I might have to look up the lyrics.
Well, if you put on women's clothing and hang around in bars, does it get you free drinks?
Again, if you're good at it. Maybe so.
That beard isn't doing you any favors.
It's going to be tough in Keene, New Hampshire, though.
I certainly don't get free drinks, in the normal way. So
603-283-6160. We continue more on cryptocurrency, where Ted Cruz apparently was on the Hannity show recently talking about Bitcoin because, well, seems like a lot of people are talking about Bitcoin. And you know what? That's a good thing. It's getting a conversation started, getting people asking questions, important questions. And of course, Bitcoin.com's got some of those answers if you want to go check them out to get started.
And I'd just like to point out, too, that something that Peakless Mountaineer was saying about, at this point in history, instead of like when the Nazi regime was coming into power or was in power, and they were doing all sorts of currency-related stuff that made people suffer, we do have, I'm going to call it a safety net. We have this new technology that is called the blockchain, and it exists in the form of cryptocurrency as the most used application for blockchain technology. For the first time, you have a safety net, and this safety net has been brought to you by voluntarism, by anarchy, by anti-statism, if you will. Right. And I say that because it's decentralized. No government is in charge of it. No government can take it down. You can't, send a SWAT team to the Bitcoin office, quote unquote, and just raid it and arrest everybody because it exists without the permission of your rulers.
Yeah, Satoshi Nakamoto was not waiting around for a government solution.
No.
Well, let's continue with your calls and thoughts. Jerome is on the line, calling from South Carolina, listening to WTMA in Charleston. Go ahead, Jerome.
Did you see some of the latest video from the Capitol riots?
No.
I saw a
Capitol riots.
The other day.
You mean the Capitol hangout?
The unauthorized tour?
No, that ain't no damn hangout.
The 3-hour tour.
There was no riot.
Don't give me that crap about no hangout, man. That ain't no.
If it was a riot, they'd have burned some buildings down, don't you think?
They damn sure were trying to do that.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, there's no evidence that I've ever seen that there was even an attempt to burn it down.
I didn't see anybody with a gas can or a lighter or anything like that. No one tried to burn those buildings down.
In fact, doors were opened for some of the people who were there, some of the quote-unquote rioters. Doors were opened for them.
They were invited in.
They were invited in.
If someone comes in and tears up your home, what should you do?
Well, it belongs to them, doesn't it? They're the people. This is their property.
Oh, you're so damn sarcastic. You make
No, I'm saying, hey, you're the one that believes. You're the one that believes that we can do this.
Man.
That we can do this public property thing. I don't.
Crap like that.
I don't think public property is possible.
Jerome, you can't listen if you're talking. Peakless, do you want to try to make that statement?
I don't think public property is possible. You're the one that thinks it is possible, and I'm asking you, since you think this is a reasonable thing to do, didn't that belong to them?
You didn't see the video of them with a policeman on his stomach telling him, "You gonna die tonight."
Did he die?
You didn't see that?
Nope, haven't
seen
it.
Did they kill him?
You know, y'all so damn sarcastic. It's just unbelievable.
Did they kill the guy?
Did he die? They damn sure were trying.
They didn't try hard enough, apparently.
Doubt that.
If there's a crowd of people and they have a cop alone on his stomach and totally under their control, if they wanted to kill that guy, they could have. Now, look, I don't support violence as a solution. I would not have participated personally in what those people. Jerome, hold on, man. Let me finish the statement, okay? I wouldn't have participated in those, whatever you want to call them, those gatherings, unauthorized gatherings at the Capitol, and I certainly wouldn't participate in violence. But if you've got numbers on a cop and you want to take that cop out, there's nothing stopping you. So they didn't want to. They chose not to.
These are the people of the law and order, okay?
That's what they said.
They're supposed to be loyal to the police.
Okay,
and
so Jerome,
look at the way they acted.
Jerome, what's the difference between the events at the Capitol and the riots in Minneapolis after Chauvin killed Mr. Floyd?
It would have never happened unless they saw the video of the man being murdered.
No, which one of those is a riot? Which one of those is a riot? Is the Capitol a riot, or is the Minneapolis burning of the police station a riot?
Look, you know why that happened?
Which one is a riot? I'm asking you a direct question.
White people been getting away with killing black people for a long time. That's why that
it has nothing. I'm asking you which one of those two events. Which one of those two events was a riot? The Capitol gathering or the burning of the police station?
The one in Washington. Look, by the way, Jerome, a lot of the people rioting in Minneapolis were white people. It was an excuse for rich, privileged white kids to come and destroy some stuff, and that's what they did. You know, they used Derek Chauvin and the murder of George Floyd as their excuse for doing it.
Let me ask you this. Who in Minnesota said, like Trump, go out and tell them to tear up the city? When he was telling them to protest and take back your country, who in the hell in Minnesota said that for people to react that way?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. You're making my point for me that the events in Minneapolis were a riot and the events at the Capitol were not a riot.
They were political gatherings.
Did you hear Trump telling them to take back their country?
Yeah, half an hour later. Seriously, he's still talking half an hour after this thing started.
You don't think he had nothing to do with starting that, huh?
Do I think he had nothing to do with it? No. I think the fact that these people believe that this election was stolen from them and that he has corroborated that belief had a lot to do with their motivations for the breach.
No, where has he corroborated? Where?
He has said that. Where has Trump said that the election was stolen from him? Like everywhere.
Stolen? It's a lie.
No, he said that was a belief, Jerome. He said it was a belief.
You're a liar.
Jerome, we're not saying, Jerome, we don't agree with what Donald Trump said, right? Like, I don't put words in your mouth, but you're not agreeing with him, right?
I'm saying that he said this. I'm not saying I believe this.
Yeah, we don't.
I don't think that there are legitimate elections. Period. Full stop.
You've got to hear the words. He said the people who participated at the D.C. event were people who believed that the election had been stolen. Not that we believe that the people who were there believed it.
The people that were there at that event love the government. They love it. They want to see the government being controlled by their guy, their orange man.
And that's a big part of why they weren't trying to burn it down. It was their holy land.
Yeah, they wanted to protect it, and they wanted to have their man in the throne, and that's what it was all about. They weren't trying to overthrow anything, not for a moment.
Hey, right. Hey, let me say this. His lawyer, the one that get up and told all them lies in front of Congress during the impeachment hearings, is the same guy that let Bill Cosby get away with raping women. Okay?
Listen, Jerome, if they were trying to overthrow the federal government, then they did a really piss poor job of it. You know, all they would have had to have done, they had the numbers. Mm-hmm. All they would have had to have done would have been add guns and fire. And then
the way they shoot black people down in the street now, there would have been a damn straight more of them that died during that riot if those were black people. Okay? Breaking into the Capitol.
You might be right about that.
Bring Nancy Pelosi out there. Let's hang her. You going to tell the police, you going to die tonight.
I think you might be right about that. I think if it was a crowd of black people, you may have seen more police violence. I think you may absolutely be right about that speculation.
I can't really disagree with that.
But that said, it's clear that they didn't want to overthrow anything because they didn't try.
I'll tell you what would have happened, though, is that, like, if Trump had shown up while that was going on, like in a helicopter or something, all them people that were there would have parted like the Red Sea and welcomed their deity
and
into the Holy Land.
Yep, kissed his boot.
Then that's the problem with belief. Everybody on planet Earth, particularly the United States of America, needs to take a look at what belief is and why they have the beliefs that they do. If you can do that as an introspective exercise for yourself personally on an individual basis, I think you will find that you will come to different conclusions.
Thanks, Jerome, for the call. As always, appreciate it.
And, you know, he keeps redirecting this to the death disparity of black versus white. And frankly, I'm sorry, I am way more focused on the death disparity of government versus non-government. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is who is killing whom.
Yeah,
government is killing non-government. That's what's happened. That's what happened then. That's what's happening today.
It would seem that would make Jerome racist in a way.
How's that?
Well, because he's always diverting the focus to whether it's the plight of the black man or not.
Yeah, he only cares if it's black people dying. He doesn't care if it's non-government people dying at the hands of government people.
I'm with government is killing many people of all shapes and sizes and colors and different backgrounds.
Yeah, when police kill innocent people, there's a huge problem. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the color of their skin is, even though it may happen more often to people with darker skin.
It sure does.
No doubt. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the week in review. Police in Haiti have killed at least 4 gunmen and arrested a number of others suspected of murdering President Jovenel Moïse. They say they're still looking for other people who planned the assassination. FSN's Rachel Silverman has more.
At least 4 gunmen have been killed and 6 more detained in the assassination of the Haitian president. Haitian officials say 1, perhaps 2 of the suspects are Americans. The president was shot dead at his home early on Wednesday. His wife was seriously injured and she's been flown to Florida for treatment in a hospital. Angry civilians have joined in the hunt for the assassins, capturing some suspects themselves and setting fire to vehicles thought to have been used in the attack. The interim Haitian Prime Minister has appealed for calm and has declared a state of siege. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
The White House says U.S. President Joe Biden urged his Russian counterpart to take action on ransomware groups. That's after another cyber attack took up to 1,500 businesses offline last weekend. FSN's Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
When the two leaders met in Geneva last month, Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin about cyber attacks from Russia-based hackers on U.S. infrastructure and companies. Just over 3 weeks later, he once again urged Putin to, quote, take action to disrupt ransomware groups operating in Russia, according to a summary of the call released by the White House on Friday. Cybersecurity researchers have blamed an affiliate of the REvil group for the latest global ransomware attack, which infected thousands of computers all over the world. Russian officials have repeatedly denied any links between hacking groups and the Kremlin. Giles Gibson, Washington.
Biden also confirmed the U.S. withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan will be complete by the end of August. However, on Friday, the Pentagon said the Taliban is making gains in the country. FSN's U.S. correspondent Nick Harper reports.
President Joe Biden had already set September the 11th as the date by which all US troops would be out of the country. Now he says it'll be done by August the 31st. When asked by reporters, though, he rejected the idea that the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was now inevitable.
The Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
But with the militant group continuing to make advances, and with more than 1,000 Afghan troops recently fleeing the country, there are concerns for the future of Afghanistan once the US troops leave. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant are spreading throughout the world, including in Australia, where in the state of New South Wales, numbers jumped again this week. A stay-at-home order covering more than 5 million residents in the Greater Sydney, Wollongong and Central Coast has been extended to July 16th. FSN's Sean Bindley reports.
With the message seemingly not getting through to people about being tested and isolating when they have symptoms, the state's lockdown is on the verge of being extended beyond next week. New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard has pleaded with residents to stay at home unless it's absolutely necessary.
I can't tell you how concerned I am now as Health Minister the way this Delta virus is moving through our community. We were told some years ago to be alert and not alarmed. Right now, here in Greater Sydney as Health Minister, I am both alert and alarmed.
In Brisbane, I'm Sean Bindley.
The Tokyo Olympics will be held without spectators in stadiums after a state of emergency was declared in Japan's capital. Coronavirus case numbers in the country are climbing once again, with just over 2 weeks to go until the opening ceremony. Our correspondent Phoebe Amoroso is in Tokyo.
We heard from Japan's Olympic minister saying that in the name of safety, they would put this cap on spectators. IOC Thomas Bach as well saying that it's a responsibility to the Japanese people. It's important also to note that many people here have still yet to be vaccinated. Only around 15% of the population have been fully inoculated. Japan's vaccination program was very slow to roll out. It's really picked up speed, so much that demand has outstripped supply, and there have been a few cancellations. It's slowed down a bit. Prime Minister Suga is saying that, okay, yes, this is the fourth state of emergency that Tokyo is facing, and vaccines are the way out of this loop. He expects that 40% of the population will be vaccinated by August the 22nd, when the state of emergency is set to expire. But that is, of course, after the Olympic Games.
I'm Caroline Malone in Washington, and that was the Week in Review.
A local grandmother is beginning to realize that her family never even looked for a better nursing home. A man leaves a father-daughter dance with a different girl than he came with, and an earthquake late warning system goes off in Haiti. Watch as yet another precious fraction of your life passes mercilessly in front of your very eyes. This is the Onion Week in Review. Shortly after discovering he had locked himself outside of his suburban home Thursday, fully nude claims adjuster David Ronzo delivered a moving and thought-provoking treatise on the frailty of the human condition to a slowly gathering crowd of his neighbors. Ronzo, who initially panicked when he realized he was naked, soon turned and faced confused passersby and delivered a stirring oration on the grim facts of mortality, along with the indomitable nature of the human spirit. In other news, a man is arrested for stealing over $50,000 worth of beards from Hank Williams Jr. A pretty lady is playing hard to follow, and a dog named Murph lives up to his name. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour here of this live Saturday edition of the program. As always, the phones are open. If you want to join us here, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And the Lord Reverend Captain Kickass is here.
Good to have you. We continue with your phone calls and thoughts. You can bring up what you want. We were talking earlier about the economy with inflation, of course. It's a real thing, and it keeps on getting worse. They're not going to be deflating the currency anytime soon. So,
no, that's our job.
Yeah, there's certain things that you can do to protect yourself about that. And surprisingly, even Ted Cruz and Sean Hannity spoke about it a few weeks back.
Do you know how the Book of Evil is referred to as the Necronomicon?
Yeah.
So all of the Keynesian books about economy, these would be the Economicon.
So we can talk more about that. Your calls and thoughts, welcome. Let's go to the phones. It's Derek. He's listening to KXLY there in Spokane. Go ahead, Derek. Derek in Washington State.
Derek in Spokane.
Spokane? Sorry about that. Did I get it wrong? I keep getting that wrong.
It's fine. I think that's one of the other Bob Rivers Twisted tunes is he did Eric Clapton, if you want to get down in the town of Spokane. Right. Even though it's pronounced Spokane if you're from there.
He was there, and I forget what he wanted to talk about. So if you're, if you got disconnected accidentally, you're always welcome to call back. Thank you, Derek. The number is 603-283-6160. So Ted Cruz, I mean, normally I don't talk about politicians.
Every
on this
time
show,
you mention these guys' names, I just get a little ill in my gut.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz.
And politicians are despicable. I'm not saying this guy is likable in any way, shape, or form, but the fact that he is talking about Bitcoin on the Sean Hannity show, and he says, quote, I think part of the reason we're seeing people go to Bitcoin is because we're on the verge of an inflation crisis, and Joe Biden has proposed $7 trillion in new spending. Remember, there's the spending that always happens, the trillions and whatever that is, and then now $7 trillion more on top.
Well, okay, so here's a thought. Maybe, just maybe, when you took the only limitation off of what banks could loan, because there was a limitation, you had to have 1/10 of what you were loaning. Oh, mind you,
barely a limitation.
If you get that back, then you can loan 10 times that amount.
That's right.
But, it at least slowed it down. And your last president, Trump, took that off. He's the one that signed off on the CARES bill that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, literally turned us into communism in the sense of the government means of distribution of resources.
And the Republicans, like this guy, voted for it.
Yeah, that is what caused the big amount of inflation.
Right.
That was the big one.
But now he's blaming it on Biden, even though it was partly their fault, the Republicans and the Democrats.
If you're listening to the show and you're a Republican, you suck. If you're listening to the show and you're a Democrat, you also suck.
Well, I mean, people start somewhere, Captain. I mean, we were all something at some point, which we weren't now, and we've likely become what we are now.
But I'm saying if that's what your current belief is.
If you hold a political position of power as a Democrat or a Republican, you suck.
Yeah, I wouldn't go out and just call everybody who's a Republican and a Democrat. I wouldn't just insult them for...
I'm not necessarily insulting them individually. I'm just saying that they're doing a poor job.
Okay, well, when you say you and you say you suck, it sounds individual.
Of thinking things through, and so they suck at that specific thing.
So you have to remember,
to clarify.
When you're listening to the radio, it's just you.
Yeah.
Right? We're in your head. When if you get headphones on or whatever, you're listening in your truck or your car.
If you're a Republican, please realize that your party will never work.
That's a good way to put it.
It will never do the things that you want it to do.
Well, and your party...
If you are a Democrat, please realize that your party will never do the things that you want it to do.
And the things that you think your party will or won't do used to be the opposite.
Yes, that's true.
And so your parties have nothing concrete to attach them to. So if somebody wanted to become a member of your party, they can't because you flip-flopped all over the place. There's no solid definition for either of your parties, and thus you suck.
And even if they did have a solid definition like in their bylaws, we've already been through this. They don't have to follow their bylaws.
That's right. Look at what happened with the Ron Paul campaign more than once. So I would put it more as like you've been taken for a ride. You've been fooled.
Yes.
And I think everybody's been fooled at some point in their lives. We've all, found ourselves in a gullible
And what do you
place.
think when you get fooled? You're like,
damn it.
I suck. That's what I feel when I get fooled about something.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, but it's better when you come to the realization on your own rather than having some guy on the radio yelling at you. That's all.
I wasn't yelling.
I don't know if you're being persuasive.
I'm probably not, but
yeah. And that's kind of what we should be doing is trying to persuade people away from the position that the next politician is going to save them.
I am being passionate about the subject, though.
No doubt.
I totally believe that parties are completely useless. The political system is completely useless.
Well, and I can promise you.
This world is like very, very soft, in my opinion, these days.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, every now and again, people need to be told that what they're doing sucks or that they themselves suck at doing this thing.
Yeah, and I promise you, the next politician will make it worse.
Yes.
Always.
They will also suck.
It doesn't matter that much you can say. I mean, we can say what you want, obviously, but
I already have.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that. gives me a chance to look more reasonable.
It certainly does.
603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. So you've got people like, Sean Hannity talking about Bitcoin now. Rush Limbaugh's dead, so he can't talk about it at this point. It doesn't get much bigger when it comes to political talk than Sean Hannity. Again, I don't agree with the guy, but at least,
last I checked, Tucker's still beating him as far as numbers
Is that right?
go. Yeah, significantly.
Well, Tucker's not on the radio. I factor in radio broadcasts as well, and Hannity's probably one of the biggest on broadcast talk radio. But Tucker, doesn't he self-identify as a libertarian? That guy?
I don't know.
If he does, he sucks.
I've never watched him for more than a moment. I don't know enough.
Honestly,
enough about him.
as far as corporate media goes, he seems to be. Last I checked, like the only one occasionally allowed to say anything true ever. Which don't mind him. He's a wingnut. No one expects him to tell the truth. Which is why he's allowed to do it.
Wasn't the NSA recently caught spying on him?
Kinda, yeah.
Basically,
caught.
Well, so someone from the NSA let him know, hey, you're being spied on, and then read him one of his own emails.
Oh, interesting.
So now the NSA they
denied.
Well, what they said is, we haven't targeted you, which is a nice, cute little thing where, well, sure, you haven't targeted me. However, you've targeted someone who's close enough to me that you can spy on everything I do.
Or we're just targeting everyone and you're not special.
Yeah, there is that too.
You just got told that we can watch your stuff. And of course they can watch you. I mean, Edward Snowden was revealing this almost a decade ago now at this point. It was 2013.
I was going to say that, Edward Snowden told everybody that they're being spied on by the National Suck Agency.
Right. And that was more than, that was 8 years ago at this point. I mean, if you think the technology's gotten worse, you're wrong, because it's gotten better. Whatever it is that their tools were in 2013, they're probably better now.
And if you think they have less leeway to do these things, you're wrong.
No doubt. All right, so you can bring up whatever you want to discuss. Captain, you had a Bitcoin-related story. Bitcoin is all over the place these days, and it's not going to get less popular.
Not related to this story, but I saw, and I didn't bring it for show prep today, I saw something where Steve Wozniak, if you don't know who that is,
the founder of Apple,
co-founder of Microsoft, isn't it?
Oh,
him and Bill Gates
Maybe
were the two. He came out, and I just saw the headline, but apparently he said something like, Bitcoin is a miracle technology.
That's a huge endorsement.
And accurate.
It is accurate. I'll say that. And when I read it, I was like, I've been saying that for a decade or more. So just to your point, Ian, about more people saying things and talking about it.
He co-founded Apple.
Was it Apple? Okay. All right. So my bad. But
with Steve Jobs, so the two
Steve Jobs, that's what it was. Yeah. So I mean, more people who are prominent in some field or whatever are coming around. It seems.
Absolutely.
To the power of the blockchain and Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff,
including a power company.
There's a 123-year-old hydroelectric plant sees new life mining Bitcoin, and we can
talk about it on the way. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. 603-283-6160. If you want to join the program, you can take control of the airwaves. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to may be even more nervous than you are. And the way things are now, your references have never been more important. Here are 3 tips. First, know that employers are checking. Every hire is under the microscope these days. Second, they won't just be checking references you provide. Figure that all of your ex-employers will get a call and be asked, would you hire him or her again? Third, assume you will be Googled. So before you apply, remove all those party animal photos from your Facebook page. Even if you're not in the job market, effective communication skills have never been more important, with money and attention so scarce now. For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, it's Free Talk Live. Phones are open here if you want to join us. Live Saturday show continuing. The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And the Captain.
And I want to say thank you to some of our Free Talk Live amplifiers. Mr. Spooner, supporting us for $5 a month. I don't know if you mentioned him last night, but it wasn't bolded, so I didn't know that you did. Bradley Hunt is a gold supporter, meaning he's doing $10 a month. So thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Mr. Spooner. Appreciate you guys being out there and helping amp the show. Advertise, market, and promote is what it stands for. It helps us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations. Captain, you were just commenting off the air on the large number of stations we have in just Washington State alone. A lot of callers.
I'd love it, man.
Calling in. Participation, of course, is what really brings the station to the forefront. When callers actually, listeners become callers and then participate in the show. That's what puts stations on the radar for us. Because we got 185 of them, but probably only like 20 of them have active, callers. Most people just listen, which is fine.
Yeah, I bumped into some listener-only type peeps at the Fork Fest.
Oh, cool.
Somebody, I was like on my way to the John because I had to go. I've been accused of having an insane bladder that, I don't have to go very often kind of a thing. But when I do, it's time to go. And so I'm, motoring my way over towards the Johns and I see this kid in the distance and he's like, he's probably 25, or I say kid. He's coming like making a beeline for me. I'm like, this is going to result in some sort of a thing, right? And he comes up and he's like, "You're Captain Kick-Ass, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." He's like, "This is going to sound weird, but can I get a selfie?" And I'm like, yes, you can. So he apparently
you held it for him. That's
well,
good.
and then I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to the John, but our tent's over there, and we're doing the show. Why don't you come and sit down and hang out with us?" And he did. And participated. So it was good. It was a great interaction.
It's a good thing. All right, let's go to your calls, your thoughts. We've got Jack. He's on the line, listening in Washington. Or is it Washington? I'm sorry, Jack. I forgot to make the note.
Yeah, it's Washington.
All right. What's on your mind?
So was it Captain Kick-Ass that kind of said, and I'm paraphrasing, if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat and you lean that way, hear me out here, you're kind of not good. I was using the D word. But, if you're a conservative, and I can't speak for liberals because I'm not a liberal, but I'm not a Republican. I'm conservative. So what I'm saying is when I hear that kind of stuff coming from you guys, which I respect, and I turned more into libertarian, or realized I was, it really, it's kind of it's off-putting.
Well,
and he
told
did,
you.
and he did say, and he did say,
if I may, I will clarify. What I said is, if you are a Republican, you suck. If you are a Democrat, you suck. That is specifically what I said. Now,
I am also a registered Republican.
Now, what do I mean by that? Right? What do I mean by that?
Yeah, that's nice.
What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is I don't think, if you subscribe to the Republican Party, if you're an active member in the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, it doesn't matter which party, right? I'll even say it about the Libertarian Party. I don't think you've really thought things through. I think that none of the parties matter. They don't really matter. Not only have the Republican and the Democrats specifically changed their definition over the course of time, they've completely flip-flopped 180 degrees over the course of time about what their defined beliefs are. So when somebody who doesn't subscribe to either party goes, well, I wonder what these things are about, and they try to self-identify with one or the other, they can't. There's no way for them to do so because these parties don't even identify themselves properly.
Voting for more conservative ideas and people.
What does that mean? What does it mean to be a conservative?
I think that definition you should already know.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
What does it mean to you?
It's low taxes. It's we're talking about unemployment and these systems that are going on right now. I've been on unemployment for 2 years, guys. I worked my butt off for years, and I've been brought into this system. It's really weird. And so I can go get a job right now, but why would I?
That doesn't sound very conservative to me.
Sounds socialist.
It shows you how it happens, though. It shows how they're doing it. It's the boiling of the frog.
Yeah.
But I love you guys. I listen to you every single Saturday, and I appreciate it.
Is that all, though? I mean, is it just low taxes? Is that all it means to be a conservative?
No. It's, it's before, I got in this position, it was working hard and earning your money and but then you guys have swayed me a lot of ways when it comes to paying taxes and how those taxes are used. And this inflation conversation you guys had earlier, I think was quite a bit more complicated and, awakening than you're usually going to hear. And that's why I love you guys. I enjoy you guys a lot.
Jack, I appreciate the call, and thank you for the feedback here tonight. Thanks for making it. The number is 603-283-6160.
So it's an illustration of poor definitions and definitions that don't stick. So,
I think it's worth pointing out that you didn't say if you're conservative, you suck. You didn't say if you're liberal, you suck. You said you were referring to these political parties.
Correct.
Right. And yeah, they suck. And the more energy you put into that, the more energy gets sucked out of you and the more power that they have to suck everything from us.
I'm oversimplifying, but for example, if I'm a heavy metal guitar player, there are certain things I need to meet that definition. Number one, I need a guitar. right? Number 2, probably need a distortion pedal or some sort of effect to give me that heavy metal sound, right? Number 3, I probably need to play really fast, right? These are 3 things that I can look to say, oh, that guy is a heavy metal guitar player. Now, if you want to say that guy is a Republican, what are the 3 top things you need to be a Republican? What are the 3 top things you need to be a Democrat?
It's hard to get an answer from people.
There's no clear definition of either of these things, and yet these 2 parties are the source of division and bickering amongst the American people that has gone on since well before I was even born.
Well, let's look at what he did say. He did say low taxes. He said hardworking.
Which makes me ultra-conservative because I'm a no-taxes guy.
Now, he's talking about the average person, I think, right? Because, the politicians aren't hardworking.
Nope.
These people are lazy bums.
They barely work at all.
They're living off the largesse of actual hardworking people, whether they be Republican or Democrat. The politicians aren't for low taxes because if the quote-unquote conservative politicians were actually for low taxes, then presumably they would do something about that. And when the Republican Party was in charge of the administrations over the last 20 years, because they were during the Bush administration. I believe they were again sometime during Trump or something.
Oh, yeah, the
briefly.
first part of Trump, they had total power.
Did the taxes go down? Did spending go down, more importantly? Because the answer is no. The government got bigger and more oppressive than it ever has over both the Republican and Democrat terms. So it's not like the Republicans just turned the ship of state around and made the government smaller. That didn't happen. So what do they say to that? What do these conservatives say? Oh, well, none of the Republicans are conservative. Oh, no, he's a true conservative, but he's not, or there's not enough true conservatives.
He's a Republican in name only.
Yeah. 603-283-6160. And how many years have they been saying that stuff?
Right.
For decades.
Longer than I've been alive.
How many years has there been neocon?
603-283-6160. You can join us on the radio. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. Police in Haiti have killed at least 4 gunmen and arrested a number of others suspected of murdering President Jovenel Moïse. They say they're still looking for other people who planned the assassination. FSN's Rachel Silverman has more.
At least 4 gunmen have been killed and 6 more detained in the assassination of the Haitian president. Haitian officials say 1, perhaps 2 of the suspects are Americans. The president was shot dead at his home early on Wednesday. His wife was seriously injured and she's been flown to Florida for treatment in a hospital. Angry civilians have joined in the hunt for the assassins, capturing some suspects themselves and setting fire to vehicles thought to have been used in the attack. The interim Haitian Prime Minister has appealed for calm and has declared a state of siege. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
The White House says U.S. President Joe Biden urged his Russian counterpart to take action on ransomware groups. That's after another cyber attack took up to 1,500 businesses offline last weekend. FSN's Washington correspondent Giles Gibson reports.
When the 2 leaders met in Geneva last month, Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin about cyber attacks from Russia-based hackers on US infrastructure and companies. Just over 3 weeks later, he once again urged Putin to, quote, take action to disrupt ransomware groups operating in Russia, according to a summary of the call released by the White House on Friday. Cybersecurity researchers have blamed an affiliate of the REvil group for the latest global ransomware attack, which infected thousands of computers all over the world. Russian officials have repeatedly denied any links between hacking groups and the Kremlin. Giles Gibson, Washington.
Biden also confirmed the US withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan will be complete by the end of August. However, on Friday, the Pentagon said the Taliban is making gains in the country. FSN's US correspondent Nick Harper reports.
President Joe Biden had already set September the 11th as the date by which all US troops would be out of the country. Now he says it'll be done by August the 31st. When asked by reporters, though, he rejected the idea that the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was now inevitable.
The Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force, against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
But with the militant group continuing to make advances and with more than 1,000 Afghan troops recently fleeing the country, there are concerns for the future of Afghanistan once the US troops leave. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want. Open phones, as always. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Pigless Mountaineer.
The Lord Reverend Captain Kickass is also here.
So you can bring up anything. We're going to go to your calls and thoughts. And don't forget, you can join us online anytime you want. Head over to freetalklive.com.
Hang on before you go to the call. I just want to clarify, or actually in addition to what I've already said about the Republican parties and the Democratic parties, is that if you believe in either of those parties, you are in a cult which you don't recognize. Right? Now, we've talked before on Free Talk Live about the belief in government being a cult of its own.
Oh, yeah.
And within that cult are these two subcults called Republicans and Democrats.
Where they fooled people into believing they're actually different.
Right. It's the divide and conquer thing. And what they're doing is they're saying, oh, you people with pitchforks need to hate the people with the torches, and you people with the torches need to hate the people with the pitchforks. When indeed, the people who are doing you wrong are the people running the system.
The people selling the pitchforks and the torches.
Correct.
Well, and as Etienne Squared was quick to point out, that the another subcult is the shave-headed part of them that actually enforce all of this nonsense on you.
The psychos. Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. We got Major Payne. He's on the line, listening in Michigan to WZTK FM in Alpena.
Major.
Ian.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Just for you, son.
All right.
I had an ex named Bonnie, and I know how you was feeling when you was locked up in that there cage. So bring back my Bonnie to me.
She's not on tonight, though, so it's not the same.
Bring back Bonnie to me.
I'm sure she's heard that one before, but
I'm sure she has.
Yeah, thank you for
I insulted her one time. I called in and I thought she was the captain's girlfriend.
No, it was nobody's actually.
I raised the hackles on the back of her neck, and so that was just my apology.
Well, thank you, Major Payne. I'll be sure that she knows that you called in tonight. So what else were you calling in about?
Well, you guys have thrown out so many Frisbees, I don't know which dog to catch. All right. Well, I called in originally about this child care payment, $3,500, $3,000 a year, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's the same story of kings. They give with one and they take with the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is why the left-handed people have gotten a bad rep, because we seem to be they give with the right hand, but they take with the left. Well,
anything that they give, they have to have taken first.
Yeah, but the only ones that are in the right state of mind are the left-handed people.
Okay.
We run on different sides of our brains.
The
I'd be curious to know how many of you folks there that mind this radio station are left-handed.
The left side of the brain. Hang on, Major. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body.
Right.
Therefore, left-handed people are the only people in their right minds.
Thanks for explaining that joke. I appreciate it.
I'm here for you. I'm here to make you look. What was it? More reasonable,
or in this case, more clueless. Thanks, Major Payne. Appreciate it, man. Is anybody here left-handed?
I am not.
I'm not. But I would also point out that that is reverse true for your face.
Ooh, yes, it is. I was my birth parents split early, and I leaned to use my left hand more. My birth mother was a left-handed person, and she started teaching me how to hold things like a fork and a spoon and all that kind of thing. And then at some point, I had to go live, with my biological father, and he was having none of that. No son of mine's going to be a southpaw. I
really
associated with some sort of, I don't know, demonic thing. They're religious people. So, and so I was prohibited
the left hand is the hand of Satan
from using my left hand. And so he taught me how to hold forks and write and, that in school. And they were like, my son's a right-handed. You teach him the right hand and, that kind of thing. So
what'd you say? It's sinister?
Yeah, no, sinister is literally the word for that hand.
Really?
Yeah, dexter and sinister. Yeah, referring to normal in this context, people will be right-handed, so they are dexterous with their right hand, and the left hand, because it doesn't do what you tell it to, is sinister.
Sinister.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, and because of that, and some other things, there was a big association between the left hand and the devil.
Well, and witchcraft too, like when the Salem witch hunts. If you were left-handed, Glenn Danzig has a song called "Left Hand Black," right? And this is just another version of sort of the left hand makes you evil or something like that.
Oh, and it's your left shoulder you're supposed to toss the salt over in order to get it in the devil's eye, which is what that was about.
I've been tossing salt over the wrong shoulder.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's go to your calls. More of them. David on the line in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David.
Hey, yeah, there's a new article on this state of New Mexico CPS or CYFD in New Mexico controversy. This is from abqjournal.com. Ex-employee seek CYFD contract investigation 2 days ago. And the new stuff. And first of all, the reason that I bring this stuff is because for a decade, the powers that be in the state of New Mexico have poo-pooed my allegations of corruption in the state of New Mexico's children and family courts. And I'm just one individual, and they dismiss me, because I'm just one parent that has got
and every single one of the judges and other bureaucrats who've gone down for corruption charges, they're just an isolated incident.
Right. And so whenever evidence presents that's not my case, but other people's cases that support my allegations, I throw it in their face.
Sure.
And so this is a good example of that, especially since, CPS, CYFD are synonymous with the children and family courts, because CYFD, they don't do anything without a court order. So they're hand in hand. And the latest on this is that the two whistleblowers that were fired after they blew the whistle, which is a violation of law, and they've complained and they filed a lawsuit about under the Whistleblower Protection Act, and they've now additionally filed complaints with the Attorney General, Hector Balderas, in the state of New Mexico, and they have filed with the newly created New Mexico State Ethics Commission on ethical.
Well, that'll change everything. Finally, they've got an ethics commission.
Yeah,
I'm sure they won't investigate themselves and find them innocent of all wrongdoing like everyone else does.
I'm sure all problems will now be solved. So they've done that, and the state auditor, Brian Clone, is looking at it as well. And the new details, the new facts that are available is that the company that was awarded this essentially non-competitive contract, now the state, like most states, has a process in place to make contracting in the state more fair. And there were more than 20 different companies that were interested in this $45 million contract. But it was awarded to one without having to compete with those other. Yeah.
Shocking. And who owns this company that it was awarded to?
Well, there's a person has a name, which is in the article here, but it turns out there's an allegation by the whistleblowers that Blaylock, the head of the CYFD, who happens to be a lawyer, being from the Bay Area in California, having awarded this contract to someone that he claimed to be a friend or a friend of his wife, who also, this company is in California. So, and that's who got the contract, so that you can see where the
surprise. That's a real shocker there. A politician awarding a big money contract to one of their friends and bypassing any kind of bidding.
Never heard of that before. This must be a new thing. I say with sarcasm.
Yeah, it's never going to change.
Or maybe even snarkasm.
It doesn't matter who you elect. It's never going to change.
Or what party you belong to.
Yeah, until the end of the state. Until people finally get past this whole idea that this stuff is necessary. Thank you, David, for the call and the latest example of total corruption from top to bottom. 603-283-6160. If you want to join us in the remaining moments of Free Talk Live, they're coming up.
Free Talk Live.
Who stopped her from sitting down?
People stop black people before Rosa Parks all the time. They used force. They used dogs. They used fire hoses. They brought in the National Guard. Come on, man. It's like you don't even know what happened in your own country.
To the present. You're talking about
that's right, Mark. That's the past.
You have to be informed by history.
James, you've acknowledged that there's a bunch of bad laws today, but are you saying now that today that bad laws should be obeyed by good people?
Bad laws should be changed. And
but in the meantime,
you should not break them.
But in the meantime, you're saying obey all the bad laws, no matter what they say.
You need to obey the laws, the way that they are
like Rosa Parks should.
Why don't you go kiss the boot?
All those slaves should have stayed off in their masters' houses. They shouldn't have escaped because that's illegal.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way.
You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually.
Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are?
Excuse me.
There is no video or audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you're scared me.
You
What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones are open. If you want to join us, you can here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can also join us online anytime you want. Head over to freetalklive.com. And you can get interactive on our chat service. We've got a Matrix chat server, which I unfortunately have not yet gotten permission to go back on, so I'm not able to go and see how things are going there. But presumably it's still there because we run the thing, and I haven't heard that it's down, so therefore it must be continuing. So go to chat.freetalklive.com, and you can actually create your own channels there if you want to. There's basically no moderation. I mean, we can moderate if we need to, but we've never really needed to.
Yeah.
So because there's no corporate overlord sitting over us with an axe saying, if you don't do X, then we will,
Hey, free speech has to exist somewhere.
It's the closest semblance of it, at least that you'll find, certainly more so than a lot of places.
But they might pull our corporate protection.
Which we don't need because we run the server. And if the server company pulls us, we've got backups and we can put it on another server. So go to chat.freetalklive.com. You can get started there. Captain, you were going to tell us about a power company that is changing their business a little bit.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about, I know we mentioned Steve Wozniak, who said blockchain and the Bitcoin are a bit of a miracle technology. And this is evidenced by it not only bringing in new things, but changing old things. And so in the historic district of Mechanicville, New York, there's a 18.3 acre site that is considered one of the oldest renewable energy facilities in the world. The Mechanicville hydroelectric plant was built in 1897 by the Hudson River Power Transmission Company, and years ago the plant was almost shut down. The plant is now owned and operated by Albany Engineering Corp, AEC, and the company signed a deal with a company called National Grid in order to have continued access to cheap renewable energy. Jim Besha, AEC's CEO, told local reporters that AEC is currently making 3 times more money than it would by selling electricity to National Grid, the multinational electricity and gas utility company. Quote, "We can actually make more money with Bitcoin than selling the electricity to National Grid."
3 times the amount.
3 times. The firm only makes 3 cents per kilowatt hour selling power to National Grid.
Damn.
Besha further said it is the best type of Bitcoin mining because we're using renewable energy.
Yeah. I mean, they've got their investment, obviously, which they've probably already paid for by now since they've been around for however many years.
100
right?
plus years.
So, I mean, they paid for that facility. Now it's just gravy, or in this case, coins, Bitcoins.
And he says we're doing it on the side, experimenting with it. We're buying used servers. So reduce, reuse, recycle is prominent with this particular implementation of Bitcoin mining. So all of this criticism about all the electricity that Bitcoin uses and that it's not renewable, it's like it's all about what you plug it into.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about how much it uses. It's about how you apply the tool to what you have available. And it seems to me that with this particular article, that it is giving a large benefit to something very old that was almost dead as of a couple of years ago. It was about to be shut down. And suddenly now they're making 3 times what they would have made, you know, had they, you know, just kept selling electricity to the grid.
Wow.
Well, and this isn't uncommon because like the biggest chunk of Bitcoin miners was a wasted dam in China. Yep. They had this great big hydroelectric dam that was serving a bunch of tiny little fishing villages, and it was just wasting all of the extra power because this is what happens when you centrally plan your use of resources. But you had people who, well, it was worth them taking the risk of getting government ire in order to take this extra electricity and mine Bitcoins with it.
Yeah, and there was 2 Bitcoin mining facilities about an hour east of Seattle in the mountains because of the same thing. There was some sort of a hydroelectric thing, and that made the electricity cheaper there than anywhere else in the state. And so these 2 companies set up mining facilities there. Pretty large, warehouse-sized things. I almost attempted to go work for them when I lived over there because I was like, well, I could kind of make that commute, but then I ended up coming here. So
somebody apparently finally did the number crunching on the power consumption of Bitcoin as compared to the banking system, because I've always just said on the air, how much is the banks, all of the banks in the world, right, every bank server's farm, every bank back office, every front office, every customer service,
every branch,
every one of these
every
people with a
center,
computer in front of them, and all the lights and everything that it takes to run the banks. And according to Medium.com, there's a post at Galaxy Digital Mining is the I guess the author here, and they looked at the annual energy consumption of Bitcoin, of the gold industry, and of the banking system, and they found that Bitcoin was just over 100 terawatt hours per year. Now, a terawatt, I had to look it up. That is one. What is it? What's after billion?
Trillion.
Trillion. Thank you. I was just trying to count the zeros here. It's a trillion watts. A trillion watt hours is a terawatt. So there's 100 of those for Bitcoin in a year. That sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to just the banking system, not any other business or all the other things that are going on in the world, the banking system, they say here, including card networks and ATMs and bank branches, which, by the way, are only a chunk of it, but just over 250 terawatt hours per year. So more than twice what the current costs of running the Bitcoin network and all the miners for the Bitcoin and everybody that's running full nodes. It's much more energy efficient than running the banking system. And you have the benefit of you own it.
Yep.
You have control over your money for the first time with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And I don't know if they're just looking at Bitcoin here, if all crypto, but I'm sure if you included all crypto, if they didn't already, it'd be a minor amount on top of that, because Bitcoin is the bulk of the mining hours that are going on out there. Gold, by the way, cranked is pretty high at close to 250. So banks more than gold, and gold more than Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And this is one of the big objections.
Twice as expensive. So everyone out there,
more than twice
as expensive.
2.5 times almost.
Yeah. So everyone who's like, oh no, it's terrible for the planet to do the Bitcoin because of all the energy costs. Well, compared to what?
Right. They should be advocating to turn off the banks.
Yes.
And then you'd save a bunch of power.
There's a good sort of a slogan for us. Turn off the banks.
I like
Power them down.
Because here's the other thing. Bitcoin, with its 100 plus terawatt hours, also can service more people than the banks, because there's a ton of unbanked people in the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's more of them in other countries than there are in the United States, but I think it's like 7% of the U.S. population is completely unbanked.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, what you said, billions of people?
There's literally billions of people who have access to the internet but no access to banks.
Right. It's one of the things, one of the guys who I still follow for Bitcoin stuff, Andreas Antonopoulos, talks about all the time, is banking the unbanked. That, Bitcoin's big win is going to be, and cryptocurrency at large, is going to be banking the unbanked. And if you think about it too, from an infrastructure perspective, these countries that don't have infrastructure like we do here, we have ancient infrastructure, their infrastructure is going to be completely mobile. In other words, they're airlifting cell phone towers into remote places of jungles and deserts and stuff like that, and they're just plopping them down with some solar panels on them, and anybody with a smartphone, bingo. You're on crypto faster than you can have an actual bank account. right? So these folks, these billions of unbanked people who are in these remote areas, they're going to have a smartphone and cryptocurrency before they're going to have banking infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure. You can look at places in Africa, for instance, where I don't know, it's probably been at least 20 years since they had a huge cell phone explosion over in, Somalia and elsewhere in Africa because there's no regulations. So cell phone towers can just go up anywhere somebody's willing to sell or rent the property for a tower.
Do you remember when they were using cell phone minutes for currency in those areas?
Yep.
So this is just the natural extension of that.
That's right.
Once they get more towers and more phones in people's hands, why Bitcoin is a natural.
It's a no-brainer, and it shouldn't be a surprise that you're seeing countries like Nigeria, for instance, being one of the top countries on the planet for Bitcoin acquisition.
Yeah,
and I do have to offer a quick retraction here. I thought earlier that they had banned gold in Weimar Germany. Apparently, like the U.S. is the only one that did a gold grab apparently ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as I can tell, but
Russia must have done. I'm pretty sure.
But as far as banning the use of gold, no. Weimar Germany still allowed the use of gold, and it was a killer investment when the currency inflated itself to death.
Right.
I could swear they mentioned gold confiscation.
Well, don't swear on the radio, dude.
Anyway, if you want to join us tomorrow, you can, because we're done for tonight. Yes, that's right. The Soviets did go around and steal gold from the churches at the very least.
Yeah.
So
there's stealing from the churches, stealing from the Czechs by the Nazis, but like a full-scale confiscation, just U.S.
We'll see you tomorrow. Online in the meantime, freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network.